Hey guys, tonight we are not storming castles or sailing with Vikings. Instead, we're diving into one of the most brutal survival games ever devised. One played not with swords, but with whispers, silk sleeves, and a perfectly timed, seemingly innocent smile. We're stepping into the gilded cage of the Forbidden City, and you have just been chosen. Frankly, you probably wouldn't last today, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments what city you're in and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into 2 nights' journey together. The air in your family courtyard is thick with the smell of damp earth after a light rain. It's a familiar scent, one you've known your entire life, tied to the comfort of home, the taste of your mother's soup, the droning of your father's lessons. You are tracing the patterns on a blue and white porcelain cup with your finger, lost in thought. You are 13, maybe 14. Your world is small, safe, and entirely your own. And then, it ends. It doesn't end with a bang, but with a sudden, unnerving silence that falls over the entire household. The servants freeze. Your mother's hand, reaching for the teapot, stops mid-air. Through the moon gate, you see them. Two stern-faced men in robes of a cotton color you've only seen in official paintings, led by a palace eunuch whose face is a smooth, unreadable mask. They don't walk, they glide, their silk slippers making no sound on the wet flagstones. They carry a scroll of Imperial yellow silk. It is an edict, a summons, not a request, never a request. Your name, the one your grandfather gave you, the one your friends call out in the garden, is read aloud. It sounds foreign, detached, as if it belongs to someone else. You have been selected for the palace. Your father, a man of modest scholarly rank, prostrates himself so low his forehead touches the damp ground. There's a tremor in his voice as he accepts the honor on your behalf. Honor, that's the word everyone uses. It feels thin, brittle. It doesn't feel like the solid weight of your mother's hand, which now grips yours so tightly you can feel her panic, a frantic bird beating against the cage of her own composure. This is how it often began, especially during the Qing Dynasty. It wasn't a talent show or a beauty pageant you could choose to enter. For girls from specific Manchu, Mongol, and Han Chinese families, the 8 banners, it was a mandatory duty. Every few years, all eligible young women, typically between the ages of 13 and 17, had to present themselves for inspection. To refuse or to hide a daughter was an act of defiance against the throne itself. You are not being offered a life. You are being drafted into one. You are given 3 days. 3 days to say goodbye to a lifetime. Your room, once your sanctuary, becomes a flurry of activity. Your mother packs the small trunk with silks and jewelry, but her movements are jerky, her eyes glassy. She slips in a small, plain wooden comb chest used since she was a girl. It's a forbidden gesture, a piece of the past you're not supposed to carry with you, but she does it anyway. A tiny, desperate act of rebellion. This is a little-known detail. While the girls were officially to shed their old lives, families would often try to sneak in these small, personal talismans, hoping a piece of home could somehow protect them. A pouch of soil from the garden, a pressed flower from a favorite tree, objects imbued with a prayer. Historians still debate the true feelings of the families in these moments. The official court records paint a picture of immense pride and loyalty, but were they truly celebrating? For a high-ranking family, getting a daughter into the Forbidden City could be a strategic victory, cementing their power and influence. But for a family like yours, of lower standing, it was a terrifying gamble. They were sending their daughter into a world of vipers, with little to no influence to protect you. Was the potential glory worth the near certainty of your loneliness? Or worse, the silence in the historical record on this private grief is deafening. We can only imagine the hushed, tearful conversations that took place after the eunuchs had gone. On the final morning, you kneel before your parents. They say words of encouragement, of duty, of making the family proud. But You don't hear the words. You just watch your father's face, trying to memorize the lines around his eyes. You feel your mother's tears on your hair as she embraces you one last time. The embrace is too short. It will have to last a lifetime. Then, you are led to a covered carriage. It's plain on the outside, but the air inside is stuffy and smells of unfamiliar lacquer. The door closes, and the sliver of light showing you your family escaped. Your entire world shrinks and then vanishes. The wheels begin to turn. A slow, rhythmic clatter on the road to the capital. The sounds of your neighborhood fade. The laughter, the dogs barking, the street vendors, all of it dissolves into the sound of the wheels. You are in a box, moving from one life to the next. You are no longer a daughter. You are a candidate, a tribute. And as the carriage sways, you clutch that small wooden comb in your sleeve. Its familiar shape the only real thing in a world that is rapidly becoming a dream. Or perhaps the nightmare. The carriage finally slows, and through the small screen, you see it. Not a building, a wall, a vast, vermilion wall that seems to rise up and consume the sky, topped with gleaming yellow tiles, the gate of divine might. You have arrived, and you have never felt so small. The carriage door opens, and the world outside is a blast of overwhelming color and scale. You step out onto the stone-paved ground, and your first instinct is to look up. The vermilion walls you saw from the carriage are even more immense up close, seeming to lean in and swallow the sky. The roofs are a sea of gleaming, golden yellow tiles, the color reserved for the emperor alone. The sheer size of the gatehouse, with its intricate brackets and painted eaves, makes you feel like an ant. The air itself feels different here, still, heavy, and charged with centuries of unspoken rules. You are not alone. Other carriages have arrived. Disgorging girls who look just as pale and bewildered as you feel. Some are dressed in finer silks, their hair adorned with more expensive-looking pins, but their faces all share the same expression, a mixture of awe and terror. You are herded together into a side courtyard by silent eunuchs who move with an unnerving efficiency. There's no welcome, no kind words. You are no longer individuals with families and histories. You are a collection, a harvest of girls to be sorted and processed. The first step is the stripping away of the past. You are led into a long, plain hall where older palace women, their faces stern and impassive, instruct you to remove your personal belongings. The small trunk your mother packed is opened, its contents laid out on a rough wooden table. The silks are approved, but the jewelry is scrutinized. A few pieces are deemed too ostentatious and are set aside. Then, one of the women pats down your sleeves. Her hand closes around the small wooden comb. She pulls it out and holds it up to the light. It's a simple, common thing, worn smooth by your mother's hand. For a moment, her expression flickers with something. Pity, contempt. It's gone before you can be sure. She tosses it into a wooden box with a clatter, along with a collection of other confiscated treasures. A jade pendant, a small embroidered pouch, a single, slightly wilted flower. You feel a physical pang, as if a small piece of your heart has been torn away and discarded. This is your first lesson. Nothing of your old life is permitted here. The palace must be your entire world. Next comes the inspection. It is methodical, clinical, and deeply humiliating. You are taken behind a screen, one by one. The palace women and senior eunuchs examine you not as a person, but as a potential imperial asset. They check your skin for any blemishes, scars, or imperfections. They tell you to walk, to turn, to kneel, observing your posture and grace. They look at your hands and feet. They ask you to speak, listening to the tone and clarity of your voice. This is a little known, almost obsessive part of the selection process. It was just about a pretty face. The ideal imperial consort had to be a vision of perfect health and potential fertility. Even your scent was noted. Historical anecdotes, like that of the famously fragrant Concubine, hint at this. A naturally pleasant aroma was considered a sign of a pure and healthy constitution. You are a vase being checked for cracks, A horse being examined for its breeding potential. After the inspection, you are led to another hall, this one more ornate. You and the other remaining girls kneel on silk cushions, your backs ramrod straight, eyes fixed on the floor in front of you. A high-ranking eunuch, the one who seems to be in charge, stands before a large table. He holds a brush and a book bound in yellow silk. An assistant stands beside him, holding the scroll with your names. He begins to call out your family names. When he calls yours, you answer with a quiet, trembling here. He looks at you for a long moment, his gaze analytical. He doesn't see a terrified girl. He sees a collection of attributes. Then he dips his brush in ink and writes in the book. From this day forward, his voice is as dry as autumn leaves. You will be known as Qing Zi. Your title is Anne, Noble Lady Anne. Anne, meaning peace or tranquility. The name hangs in the air, a beautiful, hollow sound. It has nothing to do with you. You are anything but tranquil. It is a label, a designation. The girl next to you, whose father is a prominent general, is named wrong, meaning glory. Was this a coincidence? Historians still argue about the precise methodology of this rain-aiming, undranking process. Some believe the titles were chosen almost poetically, reflecting a quality the emperor or the selection committee perceived in the girl during her brief inspection. Others argue it was a far more cynical and political calculation. Your rank, from the lowest first-class attended Day Ing to the more respected noble Lady Gui Ren, and the auspiciousness of your assigned name were likely predetermined by your family's social standing and political usefulness. Your entire future, your starting position in this vicious game, was probably decided before you even left your home. The inspection was merely a formality to ensure the product wasn't flawed. You are given a new set of clothes, simpler than your own but made of fine palace-issue silk. You were assigned a small, sparse room in a secluded corner of the vast palace complex. In a courtyard, you will share with other low-ranking consorts like yourself. 2 young maids, who bow but don't meet your eye, are assigned to you. That night, for the first time, you are truly alone. You sit before a polished bronze mirror. The face that stares back at you is familiar. The same eyes, the same nose, the same mouth, but the person behind those eyes is adrift. The girl whose family called her by a childhood nickname is gone. The daughter who held her mother's hand is gone. In her place is Noble Lady Anne, a title, a role. You whisper the new name to yourself. It feels like wearing someone else's shoes. You have passed the first gate. You have survived the first day. But in doing so, you have lost the one thing you thought you could always keep. Yourself. The girl in the mirror has your eyes, but her name is a stranger's, and you have no idea who she is supposed to be. The next morning, your education begins, not in poetry, painting, or music. Those skills, if you possess them, are but secondary ornaments. Your first and most critical lesson is in the art of survival, disguised as court etiquette. Your teacher is a senior palace maid named Mama Chen. She is a woman in her 40s, with a face that seems carved from soapstone, smooth, hard, and devoid of expression. She has spent 30 years in the Forbidden City, and her posture is as rigid as the rules she is about to drill into you. You and a handful of other newly named consorts are gathered in a small kuta. Mama Chen stands before you, her hands tucked into her sleeves. The palace has its own language. She begins, her voice low and flat. Every bow, every step, every word you utter is a sentence. You must learn to speak it perfectly. A misplaced word is like a stumble on the gallows stairs. It can be your last. The first lesson is on movement. You learn that you do not simply walk. You must glide, your feet never making a sound, your body swaying with a specific, practiced rhythm. She demonstrates, moving across the room as if floating, her silk slippers whispering over the polished floor. You were made to practice this for hours, back and forth across the hall, a heavy book balanced on your head. Your neck aches, your legs burn, but any complaint is met with a cold, dismissive stare. Next, you learn how to kneel, tiptoe, In Bao, there are at least a dozen different types of bows, each one precisely calibrated to the rank of the person you are addressing. A shallow nod for a senior eunuch, a deeper bow for a higher-ranking consort, a full kneeling prostration for the empress, the empress dowager, or the emperor himself, the angle of your back, the position of your hands, the length of time you hold the pose. Every detail is scrutinized. Get it wrong, and it is an insult. Insulting someone above your station is not a social faux pas. It is a crime. Then comes the verbal labyrinth. You learn you can never refer to yourself as I or me. You are your servant Chenkyu, i.e., when speaking to the emperor or empress, when speaking to a consort of higher rank, you refer to yourself by your title. And Chengziai, you learn the dizzying array of honorificas for the imperial family. The emperor is not just the emperor, he is your imperial majesty Bixia, lord of 10,000 years Wan Sui. The empress is her highness of the phoenix throne Feng Jia. Even the emperor's favorite horse might have a title. You are required to know. This isn't just about being polite, it's a constant, public display of the power hierarchy. Every conversation reinforces your place in the pecking order. This is the tyranny of etiquette in its purest form. And the punishments for failure are real. Mama Chen recounts a story, in her passionate voice, of a new consort, years ago, who used the wrong form of address for a favorite princess. She was punished by being made to kneel on a stone courtyard for an entire day. She fainted from the heat, and her carelessness was seen as a bad omen. She was never summoned by the emperor again and lived out her days in a forgotten corner of the palace, effectively a ghost. One of the most bizarre and little-known rules you learn concerns the emperor's personal space. You are taught that you must never look the emperor directly in the eye unless he commands it. His gaze is a privilege, not a right. Furthermore, you must never turn your back on him. If you need to leave his presence, you must walk backwards, slowly and gracefully, for a specific number of steps before you are permitted to turn. You practice this absurd, shuffling retreat until your calves cramp. The sheer volume of rules is staggering. There are rules for what colors you can wear in which season, rules for which floral patterns are reserved for which rank, rules for how to accept a cup of tea, how to present a gift, how to walk through a doorway. The Forbidden City is not a home, it is a machine, and you are a tiny, intricate cog. Your purpose is to function smoothly, silently, and precisely according to the design. Any friction, any deviation, can cause the machine to grind, and the machine has a way of simply removing the faulty part. Historians are still in debate over the true purpose of this suffocating web of ritual. Was it simply a means of maintaining order and enforcing the emperor's supreme authority, or was it, as some scholars suggest, a more deliberate psychological tool? By overwhelming the individual with a million tiny, consequential rules, the system effectively erases personal impulse and spontaneity. It forces you to live in a state of constant, low-level anxiety, always second-guessing your every move. It domesticates you, breaking your spirit and making you into a compliant object of the court. The constant fear of making a mistake keeps you docile. By the end of the day, your mind is a jumble of honorifics, postures, and prohibitions. You return to your small room, every muscle aching. One of the new girls, the one now called Shu, meaning virtuous, made a mistake during practice. She tripped while trying to walk with the book on her head. Mama Chen didn't yell. She simply stopped the lesson and stared at the girl for a full minute, the silence more terrifying than any shouting. The girl, Shu, was pale for the rest of the day. You lie on your hard bed, staring into the darkness. You thought the greatest danger in the palace would be poison or daggers in the night, but you're beginning to realize that the first and most relentless poison is the air you breathe, the ground you walk on. It's the poison of 1,000 rules, designed not just to control your body, but to break your mind. You close your eyes and try to remember what it felt like to walk freely in your own garden, to run, to laugh without thinking. The memory is already starting to feel distant, like a story you read in a book about someone else. The first lesson is over. You survived, but you are already becoming a different person, a more cautious, more fearful version of yourself. And you know, with a chilling certainty, that this is just the beginning. After weeks of relentless drilling in etiquette, you are finally deemed presentable enough to be introduced to the wider world of the inner court. The day comes when you and the other newcomers are summoned to pay your respects to the senior consorts. This is not a friendly welcome party. This is a formal inspection by the established powers, a chance for them to size up the new competition. You are led into a beautifully appointed hall within one of the main residential palaces. The air is thick with the scent of expensive incense and the faint, sweet smell of floral tea. You keep your eyes demurely fixed on the floor as you ward off, but you can feel the weight of dozens of gazes upon you. You kneel in your designated place, a small cushion on the floor, far from the central dais. Your rank, and Changziai, places you near the back. When you are finally permitted to lift your eyes, you see them, the women of the harem. They are seated on carved wooden chairs or raised platforms according to their rank. The empress, of course, is at the center, a figure of serene and unassailable authority. Beside her are the Imperial consorts Gu, Ifei and consorts Fei, women who have borne children or held the emperor's favor for years. They are dazzling, dressed in vibrant, exquisitely embroidered silks. Their hair is a constellation of gold, pearl, and kingfisher feather ornaments. Their faces are masks of calm politeness, but their eyes are sharp. They scan you and the other new arrivals with an unnerving intensity. A look that is part appraisal, part warning. You are introduced by the head eunuch. One by one, you perform the kowtow you practiced so obsessively, your forehead touching the silk mat. You recite your newly given name and title in a clear, steady voice, just as Mama Chen instructed. Your servant, Ensheng Ziai, pays her respects to Her Majesty the Empress and to the senior ladies. When you look up, you catch the eye of a woman seated slightly to the right of the Empress. She is breathtakingly beautiful, with a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips. This is Consort Xian, the Zionfi. Xian, meaning brilliant or illustrious. The whispers in the corridors say she is the Emperor's current favorite. Her gaze lingers on you for a moment longer than necessary. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. In that fleeting look, you feel a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature of the room. It is a look of calculation. She is not seeing a person. She is assessing a threat. How much of it's threat? How easily could you be dismissed? These women are your new sisters. This is the term you are all required to use. Older sisters Yan Fei, older sister Shu Fei. It is a mockery of the word. They are not your family. They are your rivals in a brutal, sorrowsome game. The Emperor's attention is a finite resource, a single stream of water in a vast desert. Every drop that falls on your garden is a drop that does not fall on theirs. Their survival, their status, their access to resources, the future of their own families. It all depends on that stream, and you are a potential new channel, threatening to divert its course. After the formal introductions, tea is served. This is another test. You watch how the senior consorts hold their cups, how they take tiny, silent sips. You mimic them perfectly. A low-ranking consort next to you, a girl who was given the name Qin meaning diligent, fumbles slightly, her cup making a small clinking sound against the saucer. A few heads turn. Consort Xian raises a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. The girl, Qin, turns deathly pale. You can almost feel her future shrinking in that moment. Here you learn a strange and fascinating detail of palace life. The hierarchy of tea, the quality of the tea leaves, the porcelain of the cup, even the temperature of the water served to you was a direct reflection of your status. The Empress and top consorts would be served the rarest tribute teas, like Da Hong Pao or special early harvest Long Qing, in priceless celadon cups. As a low-ranking Changziai, you are served a pleasant but common jasmine tea in a decent but unremarkable porcelain cup. To be served cold tea was a deliberate and public insult, a sign that you had fallen out of favor. Women would live in terror of that lukewarm cup. Historians, still debate the extent of genuine friendship versus strategic alliance within the harem. Were these women all just constantly at each other's throats? The popular image is one of non-stop backstabbing. However, some revisionist historians argue that this view is overly simplistic, often colored by patriarchal records that sought to portray women as petty and jealous. They propose that genuine friendships and strong support networks must have existed. Women from the same region, or those who entered the palace at the same time, might have formed bonds of solidarity out of shared loneliness and fear. An alliance with another consort could provide protection, information, and emotional support. But even as you think this, you notice the subtleties. You see how one consort compliments consort's UNS hairpin a little too effusively. You see how two others exchange a glance so fleeting you almost miss it when your name is mentioned. The air is thick with unspoken currents of allegiance, jealousy, and long-held grudges. It is a chessboard, and every piece is smiling. The audience ends. You are dismissed. You walk back to your small courtyard, your mind reeling. You have met your sisters. You had seen the glittering surface of their lives and felt the icy undercurrent beneath. They are not monsters. They are women trapped in the same gilded cage as you, playing the game by the only rules that exist. The smiling face of consort's Yan is burned into your memory. You understand now that the greatest danger is not an open enemy, but a smiling rival who calls you sister. You are in their world now, and you will either learn to play their game, or you will be swept off the board. The loneliness you felt before has a new, sharper edge. It is the loneliness of being a solitary player in a crowded, silent, and deadly arena. The initial flurry of activity, the selection, the naming, the introductions, fades. It is replaced by a new, more insidious challenge, the waiting. The palace operates on a rhythm dictated not by the sun or the seasons, but by the whims of a single man. And for you, the new, low-ranking consort, that means you are now invisible. Your days fall into a monotonous, suffocating routine. You wake before dawn, summoned by the distant sound of a bell. Your two mates help you dress and do your hair. It's a simplified version of the elaborate styles you saw on the senior consorts, but it still takes an hour. Every pin must be perfectly placed. Then, breakfast arrives. A simple bowl of congee and a few small side dishes. It's nourishing, but bland. You quickly learn that the quality of your food is a direct barometer of your standing. After breakfast, there is nothing. You are not allowed to leave your small courtyard without permission, which is rarely granted. The courtyard itself is a postage stamp of stone and sky, with a single, lonely crop tree in the center. This is your entire physical world. You watch the sun trace its slow path across the gray paving stones. You watch the leaves on the crop tree turn from green to gold as autumn deepens. Time, which used to fly by, now stretches and pools into a thick, stagnant silence. This is the threat of the empty chamber. The dreaded cold palace Ling Gong in its metaphorical sense. To be ignored by the emperor was a social death sentence. It wasn't just about loneliness. It was about survival. Without the emperor's favor, you had no status. Your servants would grow neglectful. Your food allowance would be cut. The fabric sent for your clothes would be of poor quality. Senior eunuchs would ignore your requests. Other consorts would openly mock you. You would become a ghost in a city of 999 rooms, alive but not living. You try to fill the hours. You work on some embroidery, and you work on a silk handkerchief until your eyes ache. The maids bring you books, but they are mostly dry Confucian classics or Buddhist sutras, meant to encourage piety and passivity. There are no novels, no poetry that speaks of love or adventure. Those are considered decadent and dangerous. The silence is the hardest part. In your old home, there was always sound. Your mother humming, the cook shouting in the kitchen, the chatter of your siblings. Here, the silence is a physical presence. The only sounds are the whisper of the wind, the distant chatter of eunuchs in the main corridor, and the frantic beating of your own heart. The loneliness is a physical ache, a cold weight in your chest. You see the other girls in your courtyard struggling with it in their own ways. Shu, the virtuous one, spends hours a day meticulously copying sutras, her lips moving in silent prayer. Tian, the diligent one who fumbled her teacup, has grown thin and pale, and you sometimes see her just staring at the wall for hours, her expression vacant. This psychological toll is a rarely discussed aspect of harem life. While records focus on political intrigues, this slow erosion of the self, the hollowing out of a person by sheer, crushing boredom and neglect, was perhaps the most common form of suffering. You learn to listen. The palace runs on whispers, and your maids are your only link to the outside world of the inner court. At first, they are reticent, but with a few small kindness, sharing a piece of pastry from your meager meal, asking about their families, they begin to open up. They tell you who was summoned by the emperor last night. Consorts yawn. Again, they tell you which consort received a gift of rare southern silk from the emperor's tribute. They tell you that the empress is displeased with one of the senior concubines. This information is your lifeblood. It is the only way to understand the shifting political landscape you are trapped in. One strange little fact you learn is about the palace cats. The Forbidden City was full of them, both as pets and for rodent control. Senior consorts often had their own pampered, beloved cats, which were sometimes given official-sounding names and even had their own servants. These cats were more than pets. They were status symbols and, sometimes, political tools. A consort might accidentally let her cat wander into a rival's courtyard to eavesdrop or cause a minor disruption. For you, in your lonely courtyard, even the sight of a stray cat slinking along the top of the wall is a welcome distraction, a brief connection to another living creature. Historians still puzzle over the daily lives of the thousands of forgotten women in the Forbidden City. Official records, the veritable records Shilu, document the emperor's every public move, but they are almost silent on the vast majority of his consorts. We know their names and titles, when they entered the palace, and when they died. The vast emptiness in between is a historical void. What did they do all day? What did they think about? Some scholars speculate they created their own micro-societies, with complex friendships, hobbies, and even small-scale economies, trading embroidery or favors. Others believe the reality for most was a grim, isolated existence, a slow descent into depression and obscurity. The truth is likely somewhere in between and varied wildly from person to person. One evening, as dusk settles, a wave of despair washes over you. It's so potent, so overwhelming, that you feel you might actually drown in it. You have been here for months. The emperor has no idea you exist. Your family feels a world away. Your name is gone. Your future is a blank wall. You look at your reflection in the bronze mirror, and for a terrifying moment, you don't recognize the pale, listless face staring back at you. Is this all there is? An endless succession of identical, empty days, waiting for a summons that will never come. This, you realize, is a different kind of poison. It doesn't stop your heart or burn your insides. It just slowly, quietly dissolves your soul. You must do something, anything, to be noticed, to prove you are still here. The waiting is no longer a passive state. It has become a battle. You are losing. The realization that passive waiting is a form of slow suicide galvanizes you. You cannot will the emperor to your door, but you cannot afford to do nothing. Your survival now depends on navigating the one system that connects your lonely courtyard to the emperor's chambers. The arcane and deeply impersonal process of the evening selection. Your maids, emboldened by your small confidences, explain the mechanics to you in hushed tones. Every evening, after the emperor has finished his dinner and his state duties, the head eunuch of the Imperial household department approaches him. He carries a large silver tray. On this tray are dozens of small plaques, made of jade, ivory, or sometimes painted wood. Each plaque bears the name of a consort who is eligible for a visit. These are the infamous name plaques stew and pie. The emperor, often while sipping his tea or reviewing a document, will glance at the tray. Sometimes he waves it away, indicating he wishes to sleep alone or continue working. Sometimes he discusses state affairs with his advisors late into the night. But on the nights he is so inclined, he will casually reach out and flip over one of the plaques. That simple, almost thoughtless gesture sets in motion a whirlwind of activity. The woman whose name is on that plaque has been chosen. You learn that the system is not as random as it seems. It is, like everything else in the Forbidden City, rigged. The head eunuch has immense power. He decides which plaques are placed on the tray each night. A consort who has fallen out of favor, or one who has offended him, might find her plaque conspicuously absent for weeks or months. Conversely, a consort who has cultivated a good relationship with the senior eunuchs through discreet gifts or promises of future influence will find her plaque presented to the emperor far more frequently. The placement on the tray itself matters. Plaques placed closer to the emperor's hand are more likely to be chosen. It's a game within a game. This is where you realize your first strategic move must be made. You have nothing of value to offer the head eunuch, no powerful family to back you, so you must use the only currency you have, diligence and observation. You instruct your maids to pay attention, which you next serve in the Imperial household department. What are their habits? Who do they seem to favor? You start small. You learn the name of the junior eunuch who delivers your daily meals. His name is Little Auntie. She is young and often looks tired. One day, you save one of the small, sweet pastries from your own meager breakfast. When he arrives, you thank him by name and discreetly pass him the pastry. Wrapped in a clean handkerchief, you work so hard, you say with a small, genuine smile, "This is just a little something." He is startled. He is used to being invisible, a functional part of the palace machinery. He bows low, muttering his thanks, and scurries away. But the next day, your Kongi is slightly warmer. A week later, he whispers a piece of news. The emperor has been in a foul mood all week because of border skirmishes in the west. This is valuable intelligence. It tells you that now is not the time for any grand gestures to attract attention. This practice, known as burning the cold stove Shaoling Zi, was a key survival tactic for low-ranking consorts. It meant investing in people who were currently unimportant, but might one day be in a position to help you. It was a long-term strategy in a world that demanded immediate results. A bizarre but true anecdote you hear about the selection process involves the weather. Some emperors, particularly during the Qing Dynasty, were known to consult the stars or the day's weather when making their choice. An astrologer might advise that a woman born in a certain year would be auspicious on a rainy night, and her plaque would be presented. Other emperors had their own quirks. One was said to favor women whose names sounded pleasant when read aloud. Another, famously, would release a firefly and visit whichever consort's lanternate landed on first. A story that is likely more folklore than fact, but it illustrates the perceived randomness and desperation of the situation. Historians are divided on how much agency the emperor truly had in this nightly ritual. Was he really making a free choice? Or was his choice carefully curated by his advisors and the empress? The empress had the right to intervene if a consort was menstruating or ill, but many suspect her influence went further. She, and the powerful Empress Dowager, could subtly guide the emperor's choices to promote women from their own clans, or to sideline a rising favorite they perceived as a threat. The silver tray was not just a menu of women. It was a political battlefield, presented under the guise of casual selection. Weeks turn into another month. You continue your patient strategy of small kindness. You learn the names of the guards who stand at the entrance to your courtyard complex. You learn which palace maids are friends with the seamstresses in the embroidery workshop. You are building a tiny, fragile web of goodwill. Then one evening, it happens. A flurry of activity in the corridor outside your room. A senior eunuch you've never seen before sweeps in, his face impassive. "Noble Lady Anne," he announces, his voice ringing with official importance. "Prepare yourself. The emperor has turned over your plaque." The words hang in the air. For a moment, you can't breathe. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Panic and elation war within you. Your maids gasp. their eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and fear. The empty chamber is no longer empty. The waiting, for tonight at least, is over. But as the eunuchs and palace maids descend upon your room to begin the ritual of preparing you, a cold dread settles in your stomach. This is not a romantic tryst. This is an audition, and your entire future depends on the next few hours. You have escaped the slow death of obscurity, only to be thrown into the terrifying spotlight of the Emperor's attention. The moment the eunuch's words fade, your quiet room transforms into a chaotic hub of activity. A team of specialized maids and eunuchs, whom you've never seen before, streams in. They move with a practiced, almost unnerving, efficiency. Your own two maids are relegated to the background, looking on with wide eyes. You are no longer in control. You are a doll being prepared for display. The ritual begins with a bath. This is not a relaxing soak. You are led behind a screen to a large wooden tub filled with steaming water. The water is scented not with fragrant flowers, but with a specific, clean-smelling herbal mixture. The maids scrub you from head to toe with a coarse cloth, their movements vigorous and impersonal. This is a purification ritual, designed to ensure you are immaculately clean for the Son of Heaven. Every inch of your body is washed, your hair is thoroughly cleansed, and your nails are inspected and cleaned. After the bath, you are wrapped in a large, soft towel and lead to a dressing table. The beautification process is meticulous. Your face is gently massaged with a pearl-based cream, a luxury you've never experienced. A light, almost imperceptible layer of makeup is applied, just enough to even your skin tone and add a touch of color to your cheeks and lips. The goal is not to look painted, but to achieve an almost supernatural state of natural-looking perfection. Your hair is dried and combed out, then left to hang loose, a sign of intimacy and vulnerability. Then comes the most bizarre and humiliating part of the ritual. You are not permitted to wear any of your own clothes. Instead, you are wrapped tightly in a thick, quilted duvet, usually of a rich red or yellow silk. You are bundled up like a spring roll, your arms pinned to your sides. There are two reasons for this. The first is security. Wrapped this way, you cannot conceal any weapon. The Forbidden City was obsessed with the Emperor's safety, and the fear of assassination was ever present. The second reason is purely symbolic. You are being presented to the Emperor, not as a person with her own agency, but as a gift, a package to be unwrapped by him and him alone. Once you are securely bundled, two strong, silent eunuchs from the Qing Shifang, the office of administration for the palace, enter the room. They lay you flat on the duvet, then lift you. You are carried out of your room, through the silent, moonlit courtyards of the Forbidden City. It's a surreal experience. You are horizontal, staring up at the sliver of night sky visible between the high palace walls. You see the carved eaves of the roofs, the dark silhouettes of ancient trees, all passing by as if in a dream. You are completely helpless, entrusted to these eunuchs who carry you as if you were a piece of furniture. This method of delivery is one of the most well-documented yet astonishing aspects of a consort's first night. It wasn't a romantic walk to the Emperor's chambers. It was a procession of a human parcel. Historians debate the psychological impact of this. Was it purely a security measure, as the official records state? Or was it, as many feminist historians argue, the ultimate act of objectification? It stripped the woman of her last shred of autonomy, rendering her completely passive and dependent on the men handling her. It was a powerful, physical reminder that her body was not her own. It belonged to the state, to the Emperor. You arrive at the Emperor's residence, the hall of mental cultivation, Yang Xi and Ian. During much of the Qing Dynasty, you are carried through a side door, not the main entrance, and brought directly to the Emperor's bedchamber. The room is vast, filled with priceless art and furniture, but all you can focus on is the enormous bed on its raised platform. The eunuchs place you on the edge of the bed and then, with practiced bows, retreat, leaving you alone. The Emperor is already there, perhaps reading a scroll or sipping tea. He does not look at you immediately. The silence is deafening. You are still wrapped in the quilt, propped up like a decorative pillow. What do you do? What do you say? All of Mama Chen's lessons on etiquette seem to evaporate in the face of this terrifying reality. Finally, he sets down his book and looks at you. His gaze is not lecherous or cruel, but it is appraising. It is the gaze of a man who is accustomed to getting exactly what he wants. A man who holds the power of life and death over everyone he meets, including you. He might ask you a question. What is your name? Or what was your father's position? Your voice, when you answer, must be steady. You must be demure but not boring, witty but not overly clever. It is an impossible balancing act. He is not just a man. He is the son of heaven. An aura of immense, almost crushing, power surrounds him. This is the moment where your life will be decided. If you please him, if he finds you interesting, or beautiful, or simply a soothing presence, your star will begin to rise. You will receive favor, better quarters, finer things. You might even have a chance to bear a child, the ultimate source of security and power. If you displease him, or worse, if you simply fail to make any impression at all, you will be sent back to your courtyard, and your name plaque will likely never be chosen again. You will be consigned to the cold palace for good. There's a little known addendum to this bizarre ritual. At the end of the encounter, a eunuch would be waiting outside the door. He would call out, asking the emperor a critical question, "Stay you or Goku?" If the emperor said stay, it meant the consort was granted the rare privilege of spending the entire night. If he said go, she would be wrapped back up in the quilt and carried out the same way she came in. The eunuch would then ask the emperor if he wished for the dragon's seed to be kept. If the emperor nodded, the encounter would be meticulously recorded in a special register, noting the date and time as potential proof of paternity for any future child. If he said no, the records state that the eunuch would take measures to prevent a pregnancy. The exact nature of these measures is a subject of grim speculation among historians, but they underscore the cold, bureaucratic nature of even the most intimate moments in the palace. Tonight, you are lucky. He seems pleased. He speaks to you for a while, his voice calmer than you expected. As the eunuchs come to carry you away, he says the word they all long to hear. Stay. It's a quiet word, but it echoes in the vast room like a thunderclap. You have passed the interview. You have survived the first night. But as you lie in the cavernous, unfamiliar bed, you feel a profound sense of dislocation. You have won a great victory, but you have done it by being a silent, beautiful, compliant object. And you wonder, with a sudden pang of fear, what part of yourself you will have to kill next to keep winning. The morning after your night in the hall of mental cultivation is as disorienting as the night itself. You are woken before sunrise by a silent maiden escorted back to your own courtyard. The journey is different this time. You are not wrapped in a quilt. You walk, albeit with a retinue of eunuchs following at a respectful distance. The world looks the same gray stone, the same tiled roofs, but something has fundamentally shifted. You are no longer just An Cheng Ziai, the forgotten newcomer. You are An Cheng Ziai, the woman who was chosen. When you arrive back at your courtyard, the change is palpable. Your two maids, who previously showed you a mixture of pity and dutiful respect, now greet you with a new deference. Their bows are lower, their smiles wider. Little Anzu, the eunuch who delivers your meals, is already there, and your breakfast is a world away from the bland Kongi of yesterday. There is a small pot of fragrant, high-quality tea, an assortment of delicate pastries, and even a small dish of preserved fruits. It's a clear and immediate signal. Your status has changed, but the most significant change is not the food or the bows. It's the silence, the oppressive, soul-crushing silence that used to define your existence is gone. In its place is a new kind of sound, the sound of whispers. As you walk from your room to the small pavilion in your courtyard, you see the other low-ranking consorts, Shu and Qing, peeking from their doors. They don't greet you, they just watch, their faces a mixture of envy and calculation. You were one of them yesterday. Today, you are a success story, and in doing so, You have become a source of both hope and resentment. Later that morning, the gifts begin to arrive. The first is official, delivered by a eunuch from the Imperial household department. It's a bolt of fine silk, a deep sapphire blue, a color far richer than anything you've been permitted to wear before. There is also a pair of jade earrings and a silver hairpin. These are not just objects, they are symbols, a public declaration of the Emperor's favor. Everyone who sees them will know you have pleased him. The second wave of gifts is more subtle. The senior eunuch from a nearby palace, one who has never acknowledged your existence before, sends one of his underlings with a pot of rare orchids, claiming he heard you were fond of flowers. You have never seen an orchid up close in your life. This is not a gift, it is an investment. He is placing a small bet on your future, hoping you will remember his kindness if your star continues to rise. This is the ripple effect of Imperial favor. It's a currency that enriches you not just with material goods, but with social capital. Suddenly, people want to be your ally. Doors that were firmly shut now creak open. But with this new warmth comes a new, more dangerous kind of chill. You receive a summons. You are invited to take tea with Consort Sion, the very woman whose cool, appraising gaze terrified you during your first formal audience. This is not a request you can refuse. You dress with extreme care, choosing a simple but elegant robe, making sure not to wear the new, ostentatious gifts from the Emperor. That would be seen as flaunting, a foolish and provocative move. You arrive at her opulent residence, a world away from your humble courtyard. The air is warm and smells of sandalwood. Priceless antiques and artworks are displayed everywhere. Consort Sion is reclining on a chaise lounge, stroking a fluffy white cat. She smiles at you, the warm, welcoming smile that is completely at odds with your memory of her. "Little sister Anne," she says, her voice like honey. "Come, sit. I was so delighted to hear of the Emperor's favor. We must celebrate." She pours you a cup of tea herself, an act of manufactured intimacy. She asks you about your night with the Emperor, her questions casual but probing. What did he talk about? What was his mood? Was he pleased with the poetry you recited? You hadn't recited any poetry, but you just smile and nod vaguely. You are in a minefield. Every word you say will be analyzed, stored, and possibly used against you. Say too little, and you seem secretive and untrustworthy. Say too much, and you might reveal something she can use to her own advantage. Or you might seem naive and boastful. This is where you encounter a strange, unwritten rule of the harem, the sharing of the Emperor. In theory, all consorts served the same man, and jealousy was to be suppressed in favor of harmonious sisterhood. The reality was a complex dance of feigned camaraderie. They favored consort like Shinefi. I would often mentor a newcomer, offering advice and friendship. But was this genuine? Historians are divided. Some argue that these were pragmatic alliances. The favorite knew she couldn't hold the Emperor's attention forever, so she might cultivate a friendship with the newcomer to ensure she had an ally when her own favor began to wane. Others take a more cynical view, suggesting it was a form of control. By bringing you into her circle, she could monitor you, manage your rise, and ensure you never became a direct threat to her own position. You notice a peculiar detail. On a small table next to her, there is a small, intricate silver box. During your conversation, she idly takes a pinch of a fine powder from it and adds it to her own tea. It's likely a medicinal powder prescribed by the Imperial physicians. But in this environment, it sends a small shiver down your spine. Poison was a real and constant threat. While dramatic, Hollywood-style poisonings were rare. The use of substances that could cause miscarriage, infertility, or chronic illness was a documented reality. Favored or pregnant consorts had to be incredibly careful. Often, they would only eat food prepared by their most trusted servants, and some even used silver needles to test their meals for poison, a practice of dubious scientific merit, but one that offered a small sliver of psychological comfort. The meeting ends. Consort Sion gives you a gift, a beautiful, embroidered silk fan. We sisters must look out for each other. she says, her smile never faltering. You walk back to your courtyard, the fan feeling heavy in your hand. The warmth of her reception has left you feeling colder and more alone than ever. The vague, impersonal threat of the cold palace has been replaced by a specific, smiling danger. You are no longer just fighting against anonymity. You are now a player on the board, and the other players have noticed you. The ripples of your one night of favor have spread, and you are beginning to understand that in this gilded cage, the sunlight can be just as dangerous as the shadows. The ripples of your newfound favor continue to spread, and soon they reach the very center of the pond. The Empress. A few days after your tea with Consort Yan, the formal summons arrives. You are to present yourself at the Palace of Earthly Tranquility Kunningong, the official residence of the Empress, to pay your respects. This is a far more daunting prospect than visiting a rival consort. The Empress is not just another player in the game. She is the manager of the entire inner court. She is, in theory, the mother of all consorts and the Emperor's children, regardless of who their birth mother is. Her approval is paramount. You dress with even more care than you did for your visit to Consortium. You choose the most demure and simple robe you own, a pale lavender silk. You wear no jewelry except for the smallest pearl earrings. Your hair is styled simply. Your entire appearance is designed to convey one message: humility. You are not a threat. You are a respectful, obedient servant. The Palace of Earthly Tranquility is imposing. Its grandeur more formal and less personal than Consort Yan's luxurious residence. The air inside is solemn and still. You are led by a senior eunuch through several antechamberettes before arriving at the main hall where the Empress receives visitors. She is seated on a large, intricately carved, throne-like chair on a raised dais. She is not young, nor is she as strikingly beautiful as Consort Yan. Her pearl lies not in fleeting charm, but in her unshakable position. She wears the magnificent formal robes of an empress, adorned with phoenix motifs, the mythical bird that only she is permitted to wear. Her face is serene, her expression unreadable. She is the embodiment of composure and authority. You perform the full, formal kowtow, pressing your forehead to the floor. You remain in this position until she gives you leave to rise. You may rise, and Chang Zi. Her voice is calm and measured, neither warm nor cold. It is the voice of a judge. You rise and stand with your head bowed, hands clasped meekly at your waist. You wait for her to speak. The silence stretches, and you can feel her gaze on you. It is not the sharp, calculating gaze of Consort Yan. It is a heavier, more penetrating gaze. She is looking past your face, past your title, trying to see your character, your ambition, your potential for disruption. The Emperor has shown you favor, she states, not as a compliment, but as a fact. This is a blessing, but with blessings come responsibilities. The purpose of the women of the inner court is to serve His Majesty and to maintain harmony within the palace. Do you understand this? Your servant understands. You reply, your voice barely a whisper. I will remember Her Majesty's teachings. This interaction is central to the power dynamics of the harem. The Empress held immense institutional power. She was in charge of the household budget, the promotion and punishment of consorts, and the management of all the eunuchs and maids. A consort could be the Emperor's favorite, but if she openly defied or disrespected the Empress, her life could be made impossible. The Empress could punish her for imaginary breaches of etiquette, assign her the worst servants, or even, in extreme cases, petition the Emperor and Empress Dowager to have her demoted or confined. The Empress's gaze then falls to your abdomen. It's a fleeting glance, but it's unmistakable. The greatest duty is to continue the Imperial line, she says, heart owed unchanged. If you are blessed with a child, remember that the child belongs not to you, but to the Emperor and the great King. They are the nation's son or daughter first. This is a chilling reminder of your ultimate function. You are a vessel. Your body's purpose is to produce an heir, and if you succeed, the child will not truly be yours. This was a brutal reality. Once an imperial child, especially a son, was weaned. They were often raised not by their birth mother, but in a separate palace nursery, supervised by the empress and tended to by a staff of eunuchs and nurses. The birth mother would only be allowed to see her child on a strict schedule. This was done to prevent any single consort's family from gaining too much influence over a future emperor. A little-known aspect of the empress's role was her symbolic spiritual duties. The empress, not the consorts, was responsible for leading many of the important rituals related to silkworm cultivation, a vital part of the economy. She was the symbolic mother of the nation in both a literal and a ritualistic sense. This gave her a legitimacy that no consort, no matter how favored, could ever challenge. Historians debate the nature of the relationship between the empress and the other consorts. Was the empress a tyrant, constantly suppressing her rivals, or was she a beleaguered manager, trying to maintain order among a group of ambitious and competitive women? The records, often written from a perspective that idealized the empress's role, tend to portray her as a paragon of virtue, but personal letters and unofficial histories sometimes hint at deep-seated rivalries and jealousies. The relationship between the empress and the emperor's favorite consort was often the primary axis of tension in the entire inner court. The empress finally dismisses you with a slight wave of her hand. You may go. Behave with propriety. It is both a dismissal and a command. You kowtow once more and walk backwards out of the hall. Just as you were taught. As you leave the palace of earthly tranquility, you feel a profound sense of relief, as if you've just survived a quiet but intense interrogation. You have met the two most powerful women in the Forbidden City, Consortion, the power of favor, and the Empress, the power of position. One is a flickering, brilliant flame. The other is a mountain of ancient stone. You are trapped between them. You now understand that navigating the harem is not just about winning the emperor's affection. It's about balancing the shifting allegiances and appeasing the established powers. You have to be favored enough to be seen, but not so favored that you become a target. You must be humble before the empress, but not so meek that others see you as a pushover. It is a tightrope walk over a canyon of smiling crocodiles. Your visit with the empress has made one thing terrifyingly clear. Your survival doesn't just depend on being chosen by the emperor, but on being accepted, or at least tolerated, by his queen. Your brief moment in the Imperial spotlight has changed everything. Your courtyard is no longer a prison of silence, but a bustling hub of calculated attention. But with this new visibility comes a new set of challenges. You cannot survive on the Emperor's fleeting favor alone. You need information. You need allies. You need to build a network in a place designed to keep you isolated. Your strategy begins with the people closest to you. Your two maids and little Anzi, the delivery eunuch. Up until now, your relationship with them has been one of simple kindness. Now, it must become more strategic. You start by using the gifts you've received. You take the silver hairpin given to you by the emperor and gift it to your senior maid, Mingyu. It's a bold move. Gifting an imperial present is technically forbidden, a sign of disrespect, but you do it discreetly, not as a payment, but as a gesture of sisterly affection. The emperor has been too generous. You tell her one evening, pressing the hairpin into her hand, "This is too fine for me, but the color would look beautiful in your hair. We are in this together, you and I. If I am safe, you are safe." Mingyu's eyes widen. She understands the risk you are taking and the trust you are placing in her. She kneels, her voice thick with emotion. From that moment on, she is no longer just your servant. She is your lieutenant. Your bond is sealed not by her duty, but by a shared secret. With your other maid, Chunfen, and with little Anzi, you use a different currency. Here, you learn about their families outside the palace walls. Little Anzi's mother is sick. You use a portion of your nail, increased allowance, a direct result of your favor, to buy some expensive medicine from the palace dispensary. And you have Mingyu smuggle it out to him. You tell him it is for his mother. It's a small fortune for him, an impossible gift. He weeps with gratitude. Now, your servants are not just working for you. They are loyal to you, and their loyalty translates into information. Mingyu has friends who work in the laundry department, where they overhear the gossip of the senior consort's maids. Jinfen is quiet. but she is observant, and she notices which eunuchs visit which courtyards, a subtle map of shifting alliances. Little Anzi, on his daily rounds, hears the chatter of the kitchen staff and the guards. Your small room becomes an intelligence hub. In the evenings, after the doors are barred, Mingyu shares what she has learned. Consort's Yanas maid was complaining that the emperor didn't touch the fish soup his majesty usually loves. She thinks he is growing tired of her. Or, the empress had a private meeting with her brother, the general. They spoke for over an hour. This is gold. It tells you Consort's Yan might be feeling insecure, and therefore more dangerous, and that the empress is deeply involved in her family's political maneuvering. This network building was an essential, if unofficial, part of a consort's life. Historians call this the creation of a fictive kinship network. Since you were severed from your real family, you had to create a new one inside the palace walls, bound by loyalty, mutual benefit, and shared risk. A consort's personal staff, her maids and her assigned eunuchs, were the foundation of this network. Their fortunes were directly tied to hers. If she rose, they enjoyed better treatment and more gifts. If she fell, they could be reassigned to hard labor or worse. One of the strangest and most specific ways information traveled was through the eunuchs of the Imperial dispensary. These men were privy to the most intimate secrets of the harem. They knew who was suffering from melancholy, who was requesting fertility tonics, and who was being treated for a stomach ailment after dining with a rival. A consort who could place a loyal eunuch in the dispensary had access to a level of intelligence that was almost unparalleled. It was a high-risk, high-reward placement. The problem is, information is not free. Your network requires maintenance. You need to continue giving small gifts, offering favors, and showing kindness. Your increased allowance helps, but your resources are still limited, and your network is fragile. If one of your people is caught, or if they betray you, the entire structure could collapse, exposing you completely. Historians debate how formalized these spy networks actually were. Were they the highly organized, cloak and dagger operations depicted in dramas, or were they more organic, a natural result of people forming relationships and exchanging gossip to survive a high-stress environment? The truth is likely that it varied. A powerful consort with a strong family background could run a sophisticated intelligence operation. A low-ranking woman like you would have to rely on a much smaller, more personal web of informants. One afternoon, your investment pays off in an unexpected way. Chun Fen, your quiet maid, reports something odd. She saw one of the Empress's junior eunuchs leaving the courtyard of Qin. The diligent consort, the one who fumbled her teacup and has been fading into obscurity ever since. It was a discreet visit, late in the afternoon when few people were around. On its own, this means nothing, but combined with the other pieces of information you've gathered, a picture begins to form. Qin's family, you remember hearing, has some minor influence over the salt trade in the south. The Empress's family, Mingyu told you, has been trying to expand their commercial interests. Perhaps the Empress is cultivating a relationship with this forgotten consort, not for the Emperor's sake, but for her own family's financial gain. This means Qin is not as irrelevant as she seems. She's a pawn of the Empress. This single piece of intelligence is invaluable. It warns you to be cautious around Qin, not to dismiss her as a failed competitor. It reminds you that the game being played is not just about romance or jealousy. It's about power, money, and politics on a grand scale. You are a tiny boat floating on an ocean of immense, hidden currents. That evening, as you look at Ming, you and Chen Fen, you feel a flicker of something new. It's not just the fear of being caught or the satisfaction of a successful strategy. It's a sense of responsibility. These people have tied their fates to yours. Your survival is now their survival. You came into the palace alone, stripped of your family, but here, in this small, plain room, surrounded by whispered secrets and shared risks, you have accidentally started to build a new one. It is a family forged in shadows, a fragile defense against the gilded treachery of the Forbidden City. Your fragile network is growing, but information alone isn't enough to secure your position. The currency of the Forbidden City isn't just secrets, it's influence. And influence is built through the meticulous and treacherous art of gift-giving. After another summons from the Emperor, your status solidifies from a one-time fluke into a budding favorite. With this comes a greater allowance and more tribute items sent to your courtyard. Now, you have the capital to play the game on a higher level. You learn quickly that giving a gift in the palace is never just a simple act of generosity. It is a political statement, a strategic move laden with hidden meanings. The choice of gift, the timing of its delivery, and the person to whom it is given are all critical calculations. A misstep can be more damaging than giving no gift at all. Your first major test comes with the Empress's birthday. This is a come-end performance for the entire harem. Every consort is expected to present a gift, and these gifts are unofficially judged and compared. To give something too cheap or thoughtless is an insult. To give something too extravagant is a challenge, an arrogant display of wealth or favor that can be seen as a provocation, especially for a newcomer like you. You spend days agonizing over it. Your mates bring you suggestions. Mingyo, ever practical, suggests a rare and expensive ginseng root, a traditional gift symbolizing wishes for a long life. Shunfen, more artistic, suggests you embroider a ceremonial screen yourself, the gift of time and personal effort. You consider both. The ginseng is safe but uninspired. The embroidery is personal. But is your skill level truly fine enough for an empress? It could be seen as amateurish. You are navigating a minefield of perception. This is when you decide to consult your fledgling network. You discreetly ask Little Anzi if he ever delivers items to the Empress's personal seamstresses. He does. Through him, you learn a crucial piece of intelligence. The Empress has been complaining of eye strain lately, and has been finding it difficult to do her own fine embroidery in the evenings. This is the key. You decide on a hybrid approach. You will commission a magnificent piece of embroidery, a panel depicting phoenixes and peonies, symbols of the Empress, but you won't do it yourself. Instead, you use a significant portion of your allowance to bribe one of the junior eunuchs in the Imperial workshop to ensure that the finest silk threads and the most skilled artisans are used. Then, you add a personal, thoughtful touch along with the screen. Your gift will include a set of specially crafted candles made from beeswax instead of the usual tallow, which produce a brighter, cleaner light with less smoke, and a small sachet of herbs known to soothe tired eyes. The gift is a masterpiece of strategy. The embroidered screen is suitably grand, showing you respect her station, but the candles and herbs show something more important. Thoughtfulness. You are not just giving a valuable object. You are showing that you pay attention to her needs, that you care for her well-being. It is an act of submission and care, perfectly calibrated to soothe the ego of a powerful woman who might see you as a rival. On the day the gifts are presented, Consort Yan gives a breathtakingly beautiful and breathtakingly expensive coralline pearl sculpture. Other consorts present rare jewels, fine teas, and precious antiques. Your gift seems modest in comparison, but when the head eunuch announces your gift and explains the purpose of the smokeless candles and soothing herbs, you see a flicker of surprise, and perhaps even approval. In the Empress's eyes, you have not outshone anyone, but you have stood out. This practice of strategic gift-giving was an art form, a truly bizarre, little-known example of this was the gift of a mistake. Sometimes, a consort who was becoming too favored and felt the heat of jealousy from the Empress or other senior consorts would intentionally present a gift with a tiny, almost unrepeatable flaw. For instance, a hand-painted scroll where one brushstroke was slightly smudged. This was a sophisticated, non-verbal way of saying, "I am not perfect. I am not a threat. I know my place." It was a feigned vulnerability, a way to publicly humble oneself to appease the anxieties of the established powers. Historians still debate the economic impact of this constant gift-giving. Was it a closed loop, with wealth simply circulating within the palace walls? Or did it have a wider effect? Some scholars argue that the demand for luxury goods, silks, jades, porcelains, rarities. Fueled by the competitive gift culture of the inner court had a significant impact on the national economy. Artisans and merchants who could get their goods into the palace tribute system could make their fortunes. This meant that the soft power struggles within the harem could have very real, hard economic consequences for the world outside. Your successful gift to the empress earns you a small but significant reward. A few days later, she sends you a minor gift in return. 2 pots of chrysanthemums from her own prized collection. It's a public signal of her approval. The other consorts see it. The eunuchs see it. It's a shield, however temporary. But this new level of play brings new dangers. Now that you have resources, you become a target for requests. A junior eunuch begs for money for his family. A lower-ranking consort hints that a small loan would be greatly appreciated. Who do you help? Who do you refuse? Every decision creates a new ally or a new enemy. One evening, the maid you don't know arrives with a package. It is from a consort you barely know, one from a powerful military family. The package contains a beautiful, expensive-looking bracelet. There is no note. It's not your birthday. There is no occasion. You feel a sudden trial. This is not a gift. It is a hook. Accepting it would mean indebting yourself to a powerful faction you know nothing about. Refusing it would be a grave insult. You are trapped. The glittering bracelet on the silk cloth seems to pulse with a silent threat. You have learned how to give a gift. Now, you must learn the even more dangerous art of how to receive one. The bracelet lies in its silk-lined box, a glittering python ready to coil around your wrist. You know, with a gut-level certainty, that this is a test. Accepting it indebts you to a faction you don't understand. Refusing it creates a powerful enemy. You are trapped between a rock and a hard place, and both are encrusted with jewels. Your mind races through the lessons you've learned. Direct refusal is out of the question. It's an open declaration of hostility, but simply accepting it is a sign of weakness, of being easily bought. You need a third path, a way to sidestep the trap without appearing to do so. You call Mingyu. You look at the bracelet again. It's a beautiful piece of gold filigree, set with small seed pearls. It's expensive, but not Imperial grade. You have an idea. The risky one. You send Mingyu on a delicate mission. She is to go to the sender, the consort from the military family, and deliver a message of profound gratitude. She is to say that you were so overwhelmed by the beauty of the gift that you felt unworthy of it, and therefore, as a sign of your immense respect, you have decided to offer the bracelet at the small Buddhist shrine within the palace, to pray for the health and prosperity of the consort's esteemed family. It's a brilliant, multifaceted maneuver. You are not refusing the gift. You are elevating it. You are transforming it from a political bribe into a sacred offering. You publicly acknowledge its value and the sender's generosity, but you remove it from the realm of personal obligation. You wrap your refusal in a cloak of piety and respect, making it almost impossible for the other consort to take offense. To do so would be to question your religious devotion, a dangerous accusation in the deeply superstitious court. Mingyu returns hours later, her face pale but relieved. The consort was reportedly taken aback, left speechless by your move. She could do nothing but thank you for your pious thoughts. You have sidestepped the python. For now, this constant dance of veiled intentions takes its toll. The palace, which once seemed so grand, now feels claustrophobic. Every smile is a potential mask, every gift a potential weapon. The tension begins to manifest physically. You have trouble sleeping. You lose your appetite. One afternoon, after a particularly stressful encounter with a haughty, high-ranking eunuch, you feel a sharp, cramping pain in your stomach. You collapse onto your bed, cold sweat beating on your forehead. Is it just stress? Or the fish you had for lunch? Or something else? The thought, ugly and terrifying, slithers into your mind. Poison. Your mates fly into a panic. They help you to bed and bring you warm water. The pain eventually subsides into a dull ache, but the fear remains. It was probably nothing. A simple case of indigestion. But how can you ever be sure? This was the gnawing reality for any woman who achieved even a modicum of success in the harem. The threat of poison was both a literal danger and a powerful psychological weapon. While forensic science was non-existent, court records from various dynasties are filled with accounts of consorts dying suddenly from illness or suffering convenient accidents. A famous case from the Han Dynasty involved Empress Lu, who, after the emperor's death, infamously tormented his favorite consort, Lady Qi. She had Qi's limbs cut off, her eyes gouged out, and her ears deafened, then threw her into a latrine and called her the human swine. While this is an extreme and gruesome example, it highlights the brutal lengths to which rivals could go. More common, however, were less dramatic methods. You learn about the 5 poisons we do of Chinese folklore: snake, scorpion, centipede, toad, and spider. While these were rarely used literally, the term became a metaphor for the hidden dangers of the court. A more practical and insidious method was the slow, cumulative poisoning, using small, regular doses of toxic plants, heavy metals like lead or mercury mixed into makeup, or certain traditional medicines that were harmful in large quantities. This would create symptoms of a chronic illness, a slow fading away that was difficult to attribute to foul play. Historians continue to debate the true prevalence of assassination by poison in the Forbidden City. Some argue it was exaggerated by gossip and popular fiction, a convenient explanation for any sudden death. They point out that hygiene and medical knowledge were poor, and a simple infection or food poisoning could be easily mistaken for a deliberate act. Others maintain that, in a high-stakes environment where producing an heir meant everything, eliminating a pregnant or favored rival was a logical, if ruthless, strategic choice. The lack of concrete evidence is part of the problem. A successful poisoning, by its very nature, would look like something else entirely. The day after your stomach cramps, you begin taking precautions. You promote Chun-Fan, your quietest maid, to a new role. She is now your official food taster. Before you eat or drink anything, Chun-Fan must take a small bite or sip first and wait a few minutes. It's a grim ritual, and you hate yourself for putting her at risk, but it is a necessity. You shower her with gifts and promise to take care of her family, but you both know what her new job entails. You also become meticulous about your cosmetics, using only the simplest powders and creams prepared by Mingyu herself. The fear changes you. It creates a barrier between you and the world. You look at the beautiful lacquered food boxes with suspicion. You hesitate before sipping a cup of tea, even one you watched being poured. The poison of the court is no longer a metaphor. It is a tangible possibility, lurking in every meal, every gift, every cup. Your brief illness has an unexpected side effect. The emperor hears of your indisposition, perhaps out of genuine concern, or perhaps because your fragility has piqued his interest. He summons you again. As you are carried once more to his chambers, you feel a strange, fatalistic calm. You have survived the subtle poisons of politics and the terrifying possibility of literal poison. The game is becoming more dangerous, the stakes higher, but you are still here. You are learning the rules, and you are no longer the naive, terrified girl who first entered these walls. You are a survivor, and your fear is hardening into a sharp, cold, and necessary resolve. Your favor with the Emperor solidifies. It's no longer a novelty. It's becoming a pattern. You are summoned to his chambers regularly, not just for the night, but sometimes to accompany him in his study as he reads, or to walk with him in the Imperial garden. These moments are a double-edged sword. They grant you unprecedented status, but they also make you a more visible, more envied target. And in the Forbidden City, envy is the fuel for traps. The next one is sprung not with a gift or a whisper, but with a swatch of fabric. The seasons are turning. Autumn is giving way to winter. The palace has a strict, unwritten dress code that corresponds to the time of year. In a system obsessed with harmony between humanity and the cosmos, wearing the right colors and materials for the season was not a matter of fashion, but of ritual propriety. To wear a light, spring-colored silk in the deep of autumn was a sign of disorder, an offense against the natural order of things. One more day, A eunuch from the Imperial household's Department of Silks arrives with a delivery. This is a sign of your elevated status. Instead of receiving standard tissue fabrics, you are now granted the privilege of choosing from a selection of bolts sent directly to you. The eunuch, with an obsequious smile, unrolls several bolts of stunning silk brocade. His Majesty thought these might please you. Noble Lady Anne, he says. Your eyes are drawn to one particular bolt. It's a magnificent, luminous fabric, the color of a kingfisher's feather, a brilliant, iridescent blue-green. It's the most beautiful color you have ever seen. Mingyu gasps at its beauty. This one, you say, unable to resist. It's exquisite. The eunuch's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. An excellent choice, my lady. He bows and retreats. You immediately have your maids commissioned a new robe from the palace seamstresses. You are scheduled to accompany the emperor on a visit to a pavilion to view the first winter plum blossoms in a few days. And you imagine how stunning the brilliant blue will look against the stark white of the snow-dusted branches. The day arrives. You put on the new robe. It feels wonderful, the silk cool and heavy against your skin. As you are about to leave your courtyard, you see Consort Yan approaching, accompanied by her own retinue. She is dressed in a deep, somber plum color, perfectly appropriate for the season. Her eyes sweep over you, and her ever-present smile widens. Little Sister Anne, what a magnificent robe, such a vibrant color. It reminds one of the first shoots of spring. She says it as a compliment, but her tone is laced with something else. It hangs in the cold air between you. They warden, they drop. You suddenly feel a prickle of unease. Why did she emphasize the word spring? You look down at your brilliant blue robe. In your excitement over the beautiful color, you failed to consider its symbolic meaning. Kingfisher blue, with its vibrancy and connection to water and new life, was a color associated with spring and summer. To wear it now, in the heart of winter, is a subtle but clear violation of ritual propriety. It's like wearing a sundress to a funeral. You feel the blood drain from your face. It was a setup. The eunuch from the silk department, who you now realize is one of Consort Yan's allies, deliberately presented you with that bolt, knowing you would be tempted. He knew you were still new enough to the deeper, more arcane rules of the court to make such a mistake, and Consort Yan's compliment was the final, perfect touch, ensuring that your mistake was noticed, framing it as a sign of your ignorance and unsupertitutably. What can you do? It's too late to change. The Emperor's procession is already waiting. You have no choice but to walk into the trap. As you join the entourage, you can feel the eyes of the other consorts and senior eunuchs on you. You see a few of them, exchange knowing glances. You feel as if you are naked, your sartorial crime on full display. This level of obsession with clothing and color symbolism is one of the most fascinating aspects of court life. It wasn't just about seasons. Certain shades of yellow were reserved exclusively for the emperor, the empress dowager, and the empress. To wear that color was treason. Specific patterns were also regulated. Dragons with 5 claws were for the emperor only. Phoenixes were for the empress. A lower-ranking consort whose robe accidentally featured a 5-clawed dragon could face severe punishment. It was a visual language of power, and you had just spoken a sentence of gibberish. Historians are still deciphering the full complexity of these sartorial laws. The illustrated precedents for the ritual paraphernalia of the Imperial court Huang Shao, the like Yu Aitu Shai of the Qing Dynasty, was a massive, detailed document that prescribed the exact formal attire for every person at court for every specific occasion, from grand sacrifices to seasonal festivals. But beyond these official rules, there was a whole universe of unwritten, nuanced traditions that a newcomer would have to learn through painful trial and error. When the emperor sees you, he raises an eyebrow. He doesn't say anything, but he doesn't need to. His slight frown is a reprimand in itself. The walk to the plum blossom pavilion is agony. You feel clumsy and foolish, your beautiful robe now a badge of shame. Consort Yan walks beside you, making pleasant conversation. The picture of magnanimous sisterhood, which only twists the knife further. You have been publicly humiliated. made to look like an ignorant country girl who doesn't understand the subtleties of the court. It's a brilliant, bloodless attack. It doesn't get you demoted or punished, but it damages your prestige. It makes you look foolish in the eyes of the emperor and the rest of the court. It's a reminder that Consort Yuan is still the master of this game, and you are just an amateur. That night, back in your room, you have Mingyu burn the beautiful blue robe. As you watch the flames consume the iridescent silk, you feel a cold fury solidify within you. You have been taught a painful lesson. In the Forbidden City, there are no innocent choices. Not in a gift, not in a cup of tea, and certainly not in the color of a dress. Every single detail is a potential weapon or a potential shield. You have been careless. You will not be careless again. The humiliation stings, but beneath the sting, the harder, more cynical resolve is forming. You will learn every rule, written and unwritten. You will master this treacherous language of symbols, and one day, you will be the one setting the traps, not walking into them. The sting of the blue robe incident fades, but the lesson remains. You cannot rely solely on the Emperor's favor, which can be as fickle as the weather. You cannot win this game alone. Consort Yuan has her action. The Empress has her own sphere of influence built on tradition and institutional power. You have your small, loyal staff, but they can only gather whispers. To survive, you need an ally of equal or greater rank. You need a partner. Your eyes turn to a woman you have observed for some time. Chu Fei, Consort Chu. Her name means pure or virtuous. She is a quiet, dignified woman in her late 20s, from a scholarly family of some distinction. She is not one of the Emperor's current favorites like Xin Fei, nor does she have the unshakable power of the Empress. She holds a respectable, middle-tier rank. Having borne the Emperor a daughter some years ago, she is respected, but not feared, and most importantly, you have noticed that she is a frequent victim of Consort Yuan's subtle barbs and power plays. She is a rival to Xin Fei, which makes her a potential friend to you. Forging an alliance in the harem is as delicate as negotiating a treaty between nations. A direct approach is too blunt, too risky. It could be seen as a conspiracy. You must begin with small, tentative gestures, testing the waters before committing. You start by creating opportunities for accidental encounters. You learn from Mingyu that Consort Chu enjoys walking her small, fluffy dog near the artificial hills in the Imperial garden in the late afternoon. You make a point of being there at the same time, ostensibly to admire the chrysanthemums. For the first few days, you simply exchange polite nods. Then, you make your move. One afternoon, you bring a small, specially prepared sweet cake with you, one known to be a delicacy from Consort Chu's home province. As she passes, you offer it to her. "Forgive my forwardness, Your Highness," you say with a deferential bow. "My kitchen's made too many of these pastries from my hometown, and I heard that you, too, have a taste for the flavors of the South. I hope you will not take offense at my sharing them." You have deliberately lied. The pastry is not from your hometown. It is from hers. It's a small, secret signal that says, "I have paid attention to you. I know who you are." Consort Chu pauses. Her gaze is intelligent and cautious. She understands the subtext. She takes the cake and gives you a small, genuine smile. "You are too kind, noble Lady Anne. It is thoughtful of you. The bridge is built. Your meetings in the garden become more frequent. You graduate from polite nods to quiet conversations. You speak of neutral topics at first. The weather, poetry, the flowers. You are both feeling each other out, looking for shared values and, more importantly, shared grievances. The unspoken name that hangs between you is Consort Yuan. This formation of alliances was a critical survival strategy. While court dramas often portray the harem as a battle of all against all, the reality was more complex. Factions were constantly forming, dissolving, and reforming. These alliances were rarely based on genuine friendship, though it could occasionally happen. They were pragmatic partnerships based on mutual interest. A less favored consort might ally with a rising star for protection. Two mid-level consorts might band together to counter the influence of a dominant favorite. A strange but documented form of alliance-making involved recommending another consort to the emperor. If a woman felt the emperor was growing tired of her, she might, in a seemingly generous act, praise the beauty or talent of another woman, her chosen ally. This was a calculated risk. It could backfire, with the new favorite eclipsing her completely. But, if it worked, she would have placed an ally in a position of favor, someone who would owe her a debt of gratitude and could be counted on for support. It was a way of diversifying one's political assets. The turning point in your relationship with Consort Shu comes a few weeks later. The emperor gifts you a rare, beautifully illustrated book of poetry. Knowing that Consort Shu is a genuine scholar, you bring it with you to the garden. His Majesty has honored me with this. You tell her, but my understanding is shallow. I wonder if your highness might grace me with your insights into this particular verse. You are offering her a gift far more valuable than a pastry. Respect. You are acknowledging her superior intellect and deferring to her judgment. You are positioning yourself as a student, the junior partner, not a rival. She invites you back to her residence for tea. It is a significant step, moving your relationship from the public space of the garden to the private space of her home. Her rooms are elegant but simple, filled with books and scrolls. As you sip tea, the conversation finally shifts from poetry to politics. Consort Yuan has a long reach, she says quietly, her eyes fixed on the patterns of her teacup. Her brother was just promoted in the Ministry of Rights. Her power grows daily. Her favor with His Majesty seems as bright as the summer sun. You reply, choosing your words carefully. It can be blinding to those who stand too close. It is a delicate, metaphorical conversation. You are both speaking in code, acknowledging your shared problem without ever stating it aloud. This is how alliances are cemented in the Forbidden City, not with contracts and oaths, but with shared glances and layered sentences. Historians debate the stability of these female alliances. Were they reliable partnerships, or were they fundamentally transactional and prone to betrayal? The records are full of stories of sisters who turned on each other the moment the political winds shifted. If you were to become more favored than Consort Shu, would your alliance hold, or would she see you as a new threat? The cynical view is that all such bonds were temporary flags of convenience. A more nuanced perspective suggests that, while pragmatism was the foundation, genuine bonds of trust and mutual support did grow in these harsh conditions, providing a vital emotional resource in a world of profound isolation. You leave Consort Shu's palace feeling a sense of cautious optimism. You have a partner. You are no longer fighting on a single front. Your small network of servants provides you with whispers from the ground, and now your alliance with a senior consort gives you access to a higher level of strategy and protection. The alliance bears fruit almost immediately. A few days later, Mingyu reports that one of Consort Yuan's eunuchs was making inquiries about your family's background, looking for potential weaknesses or scandals to exploit. Before you have time to panic, you receive a message from Consort Shu. She has casually mentioned to the Empress's chief maid that Consort Yuan seems to be taking an unhealthy interest in the private affairs of other consorts, a sign of potential disruption to the harmony of the palace. The inquiries about your family stop. Consort Shu did not confront CNFEI directly. She used a third party to send a subtle, deniable warning. You have just witnessed a masterclass in palace politics. You have found your ally, but as you lie in bed that night, a new thought occurs to you. You sought out Consort Shu because she was a rival to CNFEI. But in this world, everyone is a rival to everyone else. Your new friendship is a powerful shield, but you wonder, could it one day become a beautiful, gilded cage? Your alliance with Consort Shu provides a welcome sense of stability, a buffer against the overt machinations of rivals like Consort Yuan. But as you grow more accustomed to the palace's power dynamics, you begin to perceive a different, more pervasive layer of influence. It doesn't reside in the grand halls of the consorts or the empress. It flows silently through the corridors, kitchens, and gardens. It is the invisible power of the eunuchs. When you first arrived, you saw them as part of the scenery, silent, efficient, and interchangeable figures in drab robes. You learn it early on to cultivate favor with junior eunuchs like little Anzi out of necessity. But now you realize that was like understanding only the foot soldiers of an army. The true bar lies with the senior eunuchs, the heads of the various departments within the imperial household. These men are not just servants, they are administrators, power brokers, and the gatekeepers of daily life. The most powerful among them is the chief eunuch, the head of the imperial household department. He is a man who has the emperor's ear, who often knows the emperor's moods and intentions better than anyone. He controls the palace budget, assignments, and promotions. To be his enemy is to be slowly strangled by bureaucracy. To be his friend is to have the machinery of the palace working for you. You witness this firsthand. Your ally, Consort Shu, needs a rare medicinal herb for her aging mother, who lives outside the palace. The request must go through the Department of Palace Affairs, headed by a notoriously difficult senior eunuch named Wang Jin. Her official request is ignored for weeks. Lost in a pile of paperwork, Consort Shu is frustrated. You, remembering your lesson with little Anzi, suggested different approach. You use your information network to learn about Wang Jin. You discover that he is a connoisseur of rare inks and calligraphy. He doesn't need money, but he craves respect and validation for his refined tastes. Through a series of careful maneuvers, you arrange to acquire a rare inkstone, said to have belonged to a famous Song Dynasty scholar. It costs you a significant portion of your savings. You don't give it to him directly. Instead, you present it to Consort Shu, who then gifts it to Wang Jin, not as a bribe for her request, but as a humble offering from one scholar's family to a respected connoisseur. The effect is immediate. 2 days later, Consort Shu's request for the herb is approved and expedited. The invisible wall of bureaucracy has vanished. Wang Jin didn't just grant a request. He was acknowledging a gesture of respect from someone who understood his personal currency. This reveals the intricate parallel power structure of the Forbidden City. There was the formal hierarchy of the Imperial clan and the consorts, and then there was the eunuch hierarchy. The two were deeply intertwined. A powerful eunuch could make or break a consort's career. They controlled the flow of information to the emperor, decided whose memorial was placed on top of the pile, and whose name plaque was polished and presented on the silver tray. A bizarre and little-known aspect of eunuch power was their control over the symbolic farming rituals. Each year, the emperor would perform a ritual of plowing a small, symbolic field to encourage a good harvest for the nation. The eunuchs managed every aspect of this ceremony, from the sacred oxen to the polished plow. Their efficient management of such rituals reinforced their image as indispensable to the functioning of the state, giving them a form of soft power that extended far beyond mere domestic service. Historians have long been fascinated and divided by the role of eunuchs in Chinese history. Traditional Confucian scholars often portrayed them as corrupt, greedy, and power-hungry, blaming them for the downfall of dynasties. They were seen as a third gender that disrupted the natural patriarchal order. More modern scholarship offers a more nuanced view. Many eunuchs were from impoverished families, sold to the palace at a young age. Their castration was a brutal act that severed them from normal family life and societal roles. The power they accumulated was often a survival mechanism. In a world that had mutilated and ostracized them, they could not have biological children, so they formed intense networks of masters and apprentices, creating their own form of lineage and legacy within the palace walls. Their pursuit of power, while sometimes destructive, can also be seen as a rational response to their unique and precarious position. You begin to understand that you need to map this invisible network just as carefully as you've mapped the harem. Who is allied with whom? Which senior eunuch was the master of another? What are their rivalries and debts? You realize that the gift to Wang Jin was a good move, but a temporary one. To truly secure your position, you need a powerful eunuch who is loyal not just to your ally, Consort Shu, but to you. Your attention turns to a man named Li Wei, the deputy head of the garden department. He is not at the top of the hierarchy, but he is ambitious and You learn, a rival of Wang Jin. By aligning with him, you would not only gain a friend, but also tap into the existing fault lines within the eunuch power structure. You begin your campaign. You praise the beauty of the gardens under his care in casual conversation with the emperor. You send him small, thoughtful gifts, a rare bird for his collection, a cutting from a special variety of peony. You are burning another cold stove, investing in a future asset. One evening, little Anzi brings you a message. It's not from Li Wei. It's from the chief eunuch himself, the man at the very top. He has invited you to view a collection of new tribute paintings that have just arrived at the palace. It is an unprecedented honor for a consort of your rank. You feel a jolt of alarm. Your careful cultivation of Li Wei has been noticed by his superior. Is this an invitation or a summons? A sign of approval, or a warning to stop meddling in eunuch politics? You have successfully navigated the world of smiling sisters and now the world of whispering shadows. But you may have just attracted the attention of the master of all shadows. Then you have no idea if he sees you as a potential ally or a pawn to be sacrificed. The chief eunuch's invitation is a common performance you cannot refuse. It also forces you to cancel a planned walk with consort Shu, a small but significant disruption to your alliance. As you make your way to the storerooms of the Imperial workshop, you feel a sense of profound unease. This is a new, more dangerous game. The chief eunuch, a man named Cao Di, is surprisingly unassuming in person. He is older, with a placid face and soft, quiet movements. He doesn't radiate the overt power of the Empress or the sharp ambition of Consort Yan. His power is a quiet, deep river. He greets you with a simple nod and gestures towards the scrolls laid out on a long table. He speaks of the paintings, of Brestro-Concubine provenance. His knowledge is immense, but as he talks, his eyes occasionally flick towards you, his gaze sharp and intelligent. This is a test. He is assessing your intelligence, your composure, your ambition. You answer his questions with humility, showing appreciation for the art, but never overstepping, never pretending to a knowledge you do not possess. Finally, he unrolls one last scroll. It depicts a solitary fisherman on a vast, empty river. This one, he says, his voice quiet, is a lesson. The river is mighty, and the fisherman is small. He cannot command the river. He can only understand its currents and place his boat where the fish are biting. To fight the river is to be capsized. To understand it is to eat. The message is crystal clear. He knows you have been building your networks, cultivating Li Wei, trying to navigate the currents of the palace. He is not angry. He is giving you a piece of higher-level strategic advice, and a subtle warning. He is the river. Do not fight him. The meeting ends. No explicit alliance has been formed, but an understanding has been reached. He sees you as an intelligent, potentially useful player. You leave feeling both relieved and deeply unsettled. You have passed the test, but you now know you are being watched by the ultimate gatekeeper. In the weeks that follow, a strange and unwelcome visitor arrives in your courtyard. Illness. It starts as a persistent cough, a weariness that seeps into your bones. At first, you dismiss it as a simple cold, a consequence of the damp winter air. But it lingers. The palace physicians are summoned. They are polite, professional, but their diagnoses are vague. A chill in the lungs, one says. A disharmony of qi, another suggests. They prescribe bitter herbal concoctions that do little to help. Being sick in the Forbidden City is not just a physical ailment. It's a political crisis. Your regular visits with the Emperor stop. Your favor, so carefully built, begins to erode. Out of sight, out of mind. The gifts and visitors to your courtyard dry up. The warm Kungi is replaced by bland, watery gruel. The silence you thought you had escaped creeps back into your courtyard. Consort Shu visits you once or twice, bringing remedies and offering words of comfort. But her visits become less frequent. She cannot afford to be too closely associated with someone who is ill and losing favor. It is the cold, hard logic of palace survival. Illness is a form of weakness, and weakness is contagious. This was the brutal reality of healthcare in the Forbidden City. While the Emperor had access to the best physicians in the land, The care for the thousands of consorts, eunuchs, and maids was often rudimentary. Medical theories were based on balancing yin and yang, the 5 elements, and the flow of qi. Sickness was often seen not just as a biological event, but as a sign of moral or spiritual failing, or a disruption in cosmic harmony. A curious and little-known aspect of palace medicine was the practice of remote diagnosis. Due to the strict protocols of decorum, male physicians were often not allowed to physically touch a high-ranking consort. They would have to make their diagnosis based on her description of symptoms, or by examining a string tied to her wrist, the other end of which the physician would hold to feel her pulse from behind a screen. This practice, while born of propriety, made accurate diagnosis incredibly difficult and highlights the triumph of ritual over practical medicine. Historians debate whether this neglect was intentional. Was a consort's illness a convenient way for rivals to see her or fall without any overt action? It's impossible to prove, but the effects were real. A prolonged illness could effectively end a consort's career, relegating her to the cold palace as surely as a direct imperial edict. She would be forgotten, a non-entity, left to waste away in a remote courtyard. Your loneliness is absolute. Mingyu and Chun Fen are your only constant companions, nursing you with a fierce, fearful loyalty. You lie in bed for days, the world shrinking to the 4 walls of your room. The cough worsens. You grow thin and pale. Despair, a far more potent poison than any herb, begins to seep into your soul. You are failing. The game is over. You are becoming one of the ghosts you once feared. One night, at your lowest ebb, you are woken by Mingyu. Her face is alight with a strange excitement. "My lady," she whispers. "Look." She holds up a small, lacquered box. It bears the seal of the chief eunuch, Tao Di, with trembling hands. You open it. Inside, nestled on a bed of silk, is not a jewel or a gift, but a single, gnarled root of wild, mountain-grown ginseng, a medicinal treasure worth a fortune, far more potent than anything the palace physicians had prescribed. There is no note, but there is a message, as clear as the one in his art gallery. He has not forgotten you. The fisherman on the river. He is making a move, casting his line. He has decided you are a boat worth saving from the storm. Why? You don't know. Perhaps he sees you as a useful counterweight to Consort Qian's growing influence. Perhaps it's a long-term investment. Whatever his reasons, he has thrown you a lifeline. You take the medicine. Over the next week, your strength begins to return. The cough subsides. The color returns to your cheeks. Your illness, which seemed like the end, was actually another test. A test of your resilience, of your servants' loyalty, and ultimately, a test that brought a hidden, powerful player off the sidelines and into your corner. You have been to the brink of the cold palace, to the very edge of political death. But you have returned, and you return with a new, powerful, and terrifyingly mysterious ally. The game is far from over. In fact, it has just entered a far more complex and dangerous stage. Your recovery, aided by the chief eunuch's secret intervention, is as swift as it is surprising. You are declared healthy by the Imperial physicians, who take full credit for the efficacy of their bland prescriptions. Your name plaque reappears on the silver tray, and the Emperor, perhaps intrigued by your near disappearance, summons you again. The warmth of Imperial favor returns to your courtyard, chasing away the ghosts of the cold palace. But your illness has changed you. It has stripped away the last vestiges of your naivety. You understand now, on a visceral level, how quickly everything can be taken away. This realization brings not fear, but a cold, hard clarity. Your alliance with Consort Shu is useful. Your silent partnership with the chief eunuch is a powerful shield, but neither is a guarantee of permanent security. There is only one thing that can provide that: a son. With this new, singular focus, your relationship with the Emperor changes. It is no longer just about survival or pleasing him in the moment. Every encounter is now infused with a desperate, hidden purpose. You become a student of the Imperial body, learning from your maids and the eunuchs about the arcane arts of fertility. You eat certain foods said to enhance yin energy. You time your visits based on the esoteric calculations of the palace almanac. Your life, once a passive waiting game, is now an active campaign for conception. It is during this period of intense focus that a crack appears in the wall separating you from your past. A new batch of junior eunuchs is assigned to your section of the palace. One of them, a young man with nervous eyes, is from your home province. After weeks of careful observation and small tests of his character, you have Mingyu approach him. You learn that his uncle still lives in the market town just outside your family's estate. For a price, a sum that drains your personal savings, he agrees to act as a courier. He will smuggle a letter out of the Forbidden City. Writing the letter is an act of excruciating hope and pain. What can you possibly say? You cannot speak of the rivalries, the fear, the constant political maneuvering. The letter will almost certainly be read by others. It must be simple, coded, and full of the proper filial sentiments. You write about the beauty of the palace gardens, the kindness of the emperor, the honor of serving the imperial family. You tell them you are well, that you are happy. Every word is a lie, a carefully constructed facade to reassure them and protect yourself. But between the lines of cheerful falsehood, you embed your real message. You asked your mother about her prized winter flowering camellias, a flower that has always been your favorite. You haven't seen a single one in the palace gardens. It's a small, personal detail, a message that only she will understand. I am lonely. I miss the things of home. You enclose a small, simple drawing of a bird in a gilded cage. You tell them it's a sketch of a beautiful creature you saw in the Imperial garden. Weeks later, the reply arrives, a small, folded piece of paper smuggled back in the lining of a rice sack. Your hands tremble as you open it. It is from your mother. The letter is full of pride and joy at your success. She tells you the family is honored, that your father's position has been made more secure because of your status. She tells you not to worry about them, but to focus on your duty to the emperor. It is everything you should want to hear. But as you read the neat, familiar characters of her handwriting, a cold despair settles over you. Tucked into the end of the letter is her reply to your coded message. She writes, "Do not worry for the camellias. We have removed them from the garden. It is not proper for us to cultivate the same flowers that might grow in the palace. We are content with simple daisies." The meaning is devastating. In their fear of overstepping, of causing you any trouble, your family is erasing the very things that connected you to them. They are severing the ties, cutting away the shared memories, to ensure their own safety and your success. They are not just distant. They are actively conforming to the palace's silent demand that your past be obliterated. The drawing you sent. She praises your artistic skill and says she has had it properly framed. She has either missed the point entirely, or is willfully ignoring it. This was a tragic and little known consequence of a daughter's success in the harem. While a favored consort could bring immense glory and political advantage to her family, it also placed them under an intense microscope. They had to be more loyal, more circumspect, more perfect than anyone else. Any misstep on their part could be used as a weapon against their daughter in the palace. So they often went to extreme lengths to purge any sign of individuality or ambition, becoming model subjects, their lives a constant performance of loyalty. Historians are divided on the emotional reality of these severed family ties. Did the women of the palace truly become detached from their families, their identities wholly absorbed by their new roles? Or did they maintain deep emotional connections, their isolation a source of constant, private grief? The official records are silent on this, but the existence of these clandestine career systems, the risky exchange of letters, suggests a deep-seated human need to maintain those bonds, even when the system was designed to dissolve them. You fold the letter. The small, happy bird you drew now seems to mock you. You had hoped for a thread of connection, a shared moment of secret understanding. Instead, you have received a confirmation of your ultimate isolation. Your family is not waiting for you. They are redecorating the house, turning your old room into a shrine for a stranger named Noble Lady Anne. The letter from the past does not bring comfort. It brings a final, brutal, clarity. You are truly, irrevocably alone. Your old home is gone, not because it was destroyed, but because it has willingly transformed itself. The last door to your past has not just been closed, it has been bricked over from the other side. There is no going back. The only way is forward, and forward means a sun. Your resolve, already hard, now becomes diamond. It is no longer just about security. It is about creating a new connection, a new lineage, a new reason to exist. Right here in the heart of this gilded, lonely cage, the realization that your family has, in their own way, abandoned you to your fates severs your last emotional tie to the world outside. The Forbidden City is no longer a temporary posting. It is your entire universe. Your ambition, now stripped of all sentimentality, focuses like a lens on the one thing that matters. The Emperor, not just his favor, but his mind, to secure your position and achieve your goal of bearing a son. You realize it's not enough to be beautiful or charming. You must become indispensable, a companion whose presence he actively seeks. You embark on a new, intensive course of study, not of etiquette or politics, but of the Emperor himself. Your information network is repurposed. Mingyu and Chun Fin are no longer just listening for gossip about rivals. They are gathering intelligence on the Emperor's daily life. What time does he wake? What are his favorite foods this season? Which documents from the Grand Council seem to cause him the most frustration? Little Anzi reports on the idle chatter of the Imperial kitchen staff. Your new contact, the eunuch Li Wei from the garden department, provides insights into the Emperor's preferred walking routes and his comments on the changing foliage. You even use your carefully cultivated relationship with the chief eunuch, Cao Di, to ask seemingly innocent questions about art, which reveal his master's current aesthetic tastes. You become a scholar of a single subject. You learn that the Emperor, despite his immense power, feels intellectually isolated. He is a passionate student of history, particularly the rise and fall of the Tang Dynasty. He is a decent, if not brilliant, calligrapher who admires the bold, unrestrained style of the master Mi Fu. He has a secret fondness for the simple, rustic ceramics produced in a minor provincial kiln, a stark contrast to the ornate imperial porcelain that fills his palace. Armed with this knowledge, you begin a subtle but relentless campaign. You request books on Tang history from the Imperial Library. When the Emperor visits, he finds you not embroidering, but diligently reading the Zzhi Tomian, a classic historical text. You don't feign expertise. Instead, you adopt the role of a curious student. You ask him questions, not to show off your knowledge, but to give him an opportunity to display his. Your Majesty, you might say, looking up from his scroll. Your servant is confused. The historian Sima Guang criticizes Emperor Taizong for his actions during the Zhuanwu Gate incident. Yet the dynasty prospered. How can a flawed man build a golden age? This allows him to become the teacher, to share his wisdom, to feel intellectually expansive in your presence. It's a far more potent form of flattery than any simple compliment. You take up calligraphy. You don't try to imitate his preferred masters. That would be presumptuous. Instead, you practice a simpler, more feminine style, but you leave your practice sheets visible when he visits. You ask for his guidance on a single, difficult character. This creates a moment of shared, focused intimacy that has nothing to do with romance and everything to do with a meeting of minds. This strategy of mirroring or hobby sharing was a sophisticated tactic used by some of the most successful consorts in Chinese history. It went beyond simple flattery. It was about transforming oneself into an intellectual and spiritual companion, filling a void in the emperor's life that no minister or general could fill. The famously favored consort Dong Yi of the Shanxi Emperor was said to have been his bosom friend Zhig, a woman he could discuss Zen Buddhism and philosophy with. Their connection was reportedly so deep that when she died, the grief-stricken emperor almost abandoned the throne. Of course, this path is fraught with peril. To be seen as too intelligent or too influential could be dangerous. You must always frame your intellectual pursuits as a humble attempt to better serve him. You are not his peer. You are his most receptive audience. The bizarre, little-known aspect of this was the palace slang or specific turns of phrase that some emperors favored. An ambitious consort would learn these phrases from the eunuchs and subtly incorporate them into her own speech. It was a verbal signifier that she was part of his innermost circle, that she spoke his language. It was an auditory form of intimacy. Historians debate how genuine these shared interests were. Was a consort who suddenly developed a passion for landscape painting truly interested? Or was it a cold, calculated performance? The records, written by men, often portray it as a form of clever artifice. But it's also possible that in the process of studying a subject to please the emperor, a woman might develop a genuine passion for it herself. In the crushing boredom of the cold palace, any intellectual pursuit could be a lifeline, a way to keep one's mind alive. The motive might be strategic, but the interest could become real. Your efforts begin to pay dividends. The emperor's visits become longer, more frequent. He starts sending for you at odd hours, not for the night, but to show you a new scroll he has acquired or to complain about a stubborn minister. You are becoming a fixture, a comforting and stimulating presence in his tightly scheduled life. Consorts Yon and the others see this. They can compete with you on beauty, but competing with you on this new intellectual front is more difficult. They try. You hear that Consort Yon has suddenly taken up the zither, an instrument the emperor enjoys, but her efforts seem clumsy, transparent. You have not just adopted a hobby. You have become a part of his mental landscape. One evening, he is with you in your chambers. He has been complaining about a recent flood in the southern provinces. He is tired, weighed down by the burdens of the empire. You don't offer advice. You simply sit with him, brewing his favorite tea, providing a quiet space for him to vent his frustrations. He looks at you, a new expression in his eyes. It's not just favor or desire. It's a look of genuine reliance. With you, he says quietly, the air feels lighter. In that moment, you know you have succeeded. You have transcended the role of a beautiful object or a potential mother. You have become a sanctuary. It's the most powerful position you have achieved yet. But as he reaches for your hand, a new, terrifying thought enters your mind. You have worked so hard to get inside his head. What happens if, one day, you can no longer tell the difference between his thoughts and your own? Your strategy of intellectual companionship has woven you into the fabric of the emperor's daily life. You are his confidant, his quiet refuge. And then, one spring morning, the entire world shifts on its axis. You miss your monthly period. The realization comes not as a sudden clap of thunder, but as a slow, dawning dread mixed with a terrifying, electric hope. For days, you say nothing, not even to Mingyu. You are suspended in a state of agonizing uncertainty. Every twinge in your stomach, every wave of morning nausea is a potential sign, a whisper of the monumental secret growing inside you. Pregnancy in the Forbidden City was not a private joy. It was a state affair, a political event of the highest magnitude. And for you, it is the ultimate gamble. If you can carry this child to term, and if it is a boy, your position will become almost unassailable. You will be elevated in rank, your family honored, your future secured. You will have won the game. But from the moment your pregnancy is known, you will also become the single most prominent target in the entire palace. You finally confide in Mingyu. You don't need to say the words. She sees it in your eyes, and the way you guard your stomach. Her reaction is a mirror of your own. Her eyes widen with a mixture of elation and sheer terror. My lady, she breathes, and immediately begins to issue a quiet storm of orders to Chun Fen. Your world shrinks to a fortress of 3. Your food is the first line of defense. Chun Fen, your loyal taster, now scrutinizes every dish with a new intensity. But tasting is no longer enough. Many substances that were harmless to an adult could be devastating to a developing fetus. Your diet is immediately simplified. Only the plainest, most trusted foods are allowed. Steamed rice, simple vegetables cooked by Mingyu herself in your small, private kitchen. a privilege granted to you by the chief eunuch. You trust no one else. The fear of engineered accidents becomes an obsession. A loose paving stone in the courtyard, an overly polished floor that is dangerously slippery, a sudden scare from a stray that could cause you to fall. Every mundane detail of your environment is now a potential threat. Ming Yu and Chun Fen become your shadows, walking with you, testing the ground before you, guarding you from any sudden approach. You must conceal your condition for as long as possible. The first 3 months, the most fragile period, are a tightrope walk of deception. You use your loose winter robes to hide the subtle changes in your body. You force yourself to attend tea gatherings with other consorts, sipping herbal infusions that you know are safe, feigning an appetite for pastries you dare not eat. The constant performance is exhausting. Every smile is a shield. Every polite conversation a maneuver to deflect suspicion. This is where you encounter one of the most insidious aspects of harem intrigue, the use of traditional medicine for malicious purposes. There were numerous herbs and foods in the traditional pharmacopoeia that were known to be abortifacients. Saffron, certain parts of the peach pit, and hawthorn fruit in large quantities were all believed to be dangerous for pregnant women. A rival wouldn't need to use a dramatic poison. A thoughtful gift of a beautiful box of hawthorn berry sweets or a kindly shared cup of saffron-infused tea could be presented as an act of sisterly affection, its deadly potential cloaked in plausible deniability. Historians find this area particularly difficult to study. Palace medical records might list a miscarriage, but they would never list the cause as a maliciously administered herb. The evidence is almost entirely anecdotal, passed down in unofficial histories and palace gossip. Yet, the fear was pervasive and shaped the behavior of every pregnant consort. They lived in a state of siege, their own bodies the battleground. Was every gift of food from a rival a potential attack? The paranoia itself was a weapon, causing stress and anxiety that were, in themselves, harmful to the pregnancy. The psychological toll is immense. The joy of feeling a new life inside you is constantly overshadowed by the terror of losing it. You have nightmares of falling, of drinking from a poison cup. You become suspicious of everyone. A kind word from Consort Shu, your ally, makes you wonder if she sees you as a new rival now that you are carrying a potential heir. A gift from the Empress makes you scrutinize it for any hidden meaning or threat. Your only solace is your secret consultations with a trusted physician, not one of the official court doctors, but an elderly, retired physician that the chief eunuch, Cao Di, smuggles into your quarters in the dead of night. Disguised as a eunuch, this is an incredible risk for everyone involved. If caught, it would be a major scandal. But Cao Di understands the stakes. He has invested in you, and your child is now his potential jackpot. The old doctor confirms it. You are pregnant. He gives you advice, not just on medicine, but on survival. Your greatest enemy is not poison, my lady. He tells you, his voice a low whisper. It is fear. Your mind must be a calm lake for the little fish to swim in. Finally, you can hide it no longer. You request a formal audience with the Emperor. Kneeling before him, you don't need to speak the words. He has been informed by the chief eunuch. He looks at you, then at your still flat stomach, and for the first time, you see an expression on his face that is not that of a ruler, a lover, or a friend. It is the look of a man seeing his own legacy, his own future, made manifest in you. He orders your promotion. You are elevated to the rank of Pin, a formal consort. You are moved out of your small, remote courtyard into a larger, more opulent residence. You are assigned more servants, more guards. The secret is out. As you walk back to your new, grander quarters, you feel the eyes of the entire forbidden city on you. You are no longer just noble Lady Anne, the clever favorite. You are Consort Anne, the vessel of the dragon's seed. The joy is real, but so is the fear. You have reached a new level of the game, one with the highest possible reward. But the higher you climb, the farther there is to fall. And you know, with chilling certainty, that the accidents will now begin in earnest. Your pregnancy is now public knowledge, and your life transforms overnight. You are moved to a spacious, sunlit courtyard in one of the more prestigious residential palaces. Your official title is now in Pin, Consortan, a significant leap in the hierarchy. The material benefits are immediate. Your allowance quadruples. Your meals become extravagant feasts, though you only eat what Mengyu prepares, and you are assigned a small army of maids and eunuchs. But these are not comforts. They are necessities. You are no longer just a person. You are a state asset, and your new retinue is a combination of honor guard and prison wardens. The first 3 months of your pregnancy were a secret, lonely battle. The next 6 will be a public siege. Your every move is monitored, ostensibly for your own protection. The Imperial Household Department assigns to senior mama supervisors to your household. They are experienced, stern-faced women whose official job is to ensure your well-being. Their unofficial job is to report your every action, what you eat, who you see, your mood, directly to the Empress and the Chief Eunuch. You are living in a gilded fishbowl. Your days become a meticulously controlled routine. You are encouraged to take slow, careful walks in your private garden, but always accompanied. Your reading material is vetted. No stories of war or tragedy that might upset your maternal tranquility. Your life is swaddled in protective cotton wool, but it feels more like being slowly suffocated. The primary focus of this period is protecting you from the 2 greatest threats, poison and accidents. Your food security becomes a fortress. Mengyu now oversees a dedicated team in your private kitchen. A bizarre but historically documented precaution is the silver plate system. Not only would silver needles be used to test food, but sometimes entire serving plates were made of silver, under the belief that they would tarnish in the presence of common poisons. While scientifically unreliable for most toxins, it was a powerful psychological deterrent. The fear of engineered accidents, however, is much harder to guard against. Your world is full of potential weapons disguised as everyday objects. The incense burned in your rooms. Could it contain something to induce premature labor? The newly gifted charcoal for your winter brazier. Does it give off harmful fumes? The oil in the lamps. Has it been tampered with? Your loyal staff becomes your first line of defense. Before you enter a room, Chen Fen goes in first to inspect the floors, the furniture, the windows. Little Anzi, now promoted to a junior steward in your household thanks to your influence, checks the deliveries of firewood and charcoal himself. Your alliance with Li Wei, the eunuch from the garden department, proves invaluable. He ensures that the gardeners who tend your courtyard are trustworthy men, not easily bribed too. Say, place a venomous snake among the rock RIS. This constant, heightened state of alert is exhausting. You begin to see threats everywhere. This is precisely the goal of your unseen enemies. They may not need to harm you directly if they can break your spirit with paranoia and stress. Historians debate the true nature of these accidents. Were they all meticulously planned assassination attempts, as popular dramas suggest? Or was the palace, with its open flames, slippery stone floors, and rudimentary medical care, simply a more dangerous place to live? The answer is likely a combination of both. A genuine accident could easily be rumored to be an assassination attempt, sowing fear and discord, and a well-planned attempt could be brilliantly disguised as a common mishap. The ambiguity was the most terrifying part. One of the most peculiar documented threats to a pregnancy was the use of sympathetic magic or curses. A rival might obtain a piece of the pregnant consort's clothing or a lock of her hair and have it used in a ritual by a renegade Taoist or Buddhist monk. An effigy of the consort might be created and pierced with needles. While this seems like pure superstition to the modern mind, in the deeply spiritual world of the Forbidden City, the psychological impact of believing you were cursed could be immense and physically debilitating. Your maids meticulously burn any loose threads from your clothing and strands of hair from your combs to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. The Emperor's visits are now formal, public affairs. He no longer comes to your chambers for quiet conversation. He visits with a full retinue, asking about your health and the baby's progress in aloud. official voice for all to hear. It is a performance of imperial concern. The intimacy you once shared is gone, replaced by a cold, state-managed process. He is visiting the future of his dynasty, not you. As your body changes, you feel a profound sense of dissociation. Your own physical form is no longer yours. It is a public vessel, its contents discussed and monitored by physicians, eunuchs, and ministers. You are a walking symbol of hope and a target of jealousy. One afternoon, you are sitting by the window when you feel it. The first definite, unmistakable flutter of movement inside you. A tiny kick. In that instant, the political scheming, the fear, the paranoia, it all melts away. There is a real, living person inside you, your child. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a secret that belongs only to you and the baby. You place a hand on your stomach, and a fierce, primal wave of protectiveness washes over you. This is no longer a game about securing your own future. It is a fight for the life of your child. The fear that has been gnawing at you for months doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It hardens from a brittle, anxious dread into a sharp, powerful weapon. You are not just a consort anymore. You are a mother, and you will burn the entire forbidden city to the ground before you let anyone harm your child. The siege is not over, but the defender of the fortress has just found a reason to fight to the death. The tiny flutter of life inside you has ignited a new, ferocious resolve. You are no longer just a player in the game. You are the guardian of its most precious prize. This newfound strength comes just in time, because as your pregnancy progresses into the final, most visible trimester, the accidents escalate from paranoid possibilities into terrifying reality. The first incident is subtle, almost deniable. A large, decorative porcelain vase is placed at the top of a narrow staircase you use daily. It wasn't there yesterday. It's positioned in such a way that a sleeve catching on it could easily send it crashing down, creating a cascade of sharp, dangerous shards right in your path. Jun Fen discovers it, her face pale, and has it moved immediately. Was it a mistake by a careless servant, or a deliberate booby trap? There is no way to know. But the message is clear. Your environment is not safe. The second attempt is more direct. One evening, your maids are preparing your bed. Turning down the heavy silk quilts, Ming Yu lets out a sharp, stifled cry, tucked deep within the layers of bedding. Near where your feet would be is a long, needle-sharp silver pin, its end deliberately blackened by soot to make it less visible. It's not a sewing needle. It's an acupuncture needle. Long and thin, capable of piercing deep. Had you gotten into bed without this check, it could have caused a deep puncture wound, leading to infection or, at the very least, a severe shock. Panic erupts in your household. You stare at the needle lying on Ming Yu's outstretched palm. It's a cold, hard piece of evidence. This was not an accident. This was a direct, intimate violation of your safest space. Someone on your own staff has been bribed or threatened, or an outsider has found a way in. Your fortress has been breached. You immediately report the incident, not to the Empress, but to the chief eunuch, Cao Di. This is a calculated move. The Empress might bury the investigation to maintain the illusion of harmony in the palace. Cao Di, however, has a vested interest in protecting his investment. His response is swift and brutal. Within hours, his agents descend upon your household. Every maid, every eunuch is interrogated. The atmosphere is thick with fear. Cao Di's methods are notoriously effective. He doesn't use physical violence, but his quiet, psychological pressure can break even the most stubborn will. The culprit is found. It is one of your junior maids, a young girl you barely know. She was not malicious, but weak. Her family outside the palace had been threatened by agents of a rival consort. She was promised that her family would be safe if she just performed this one small act, placing the needle. She never even knew who gave the order. The instructions came through a chain of intermediaries. The girl is taken away. You never see her again. Her fate is a grim, unspoken reality of palace justice. This is the moment you confront the true cruelty of the system. Your enemy is not just a single person. Like Consort Yan, your enemy is a faceless network that uses the weak and the desperate as its weapons. The real mastermind remains hidden, insulated by layers of deniability. You suspect Consort Yan, but you have no proof. To make an accusation would be a sign of weakness, an admission that her attack had found its mark. This incident highlights a terrifying aspect of harem warfare, the use of proxies. A powerful consort would rarely act directly. She would use her family connections, her wealth, and her network of loyal eunuchs to pressure or bribe the vulnerable servants of her rival. This created a system where the true instigator was almost always protected. Historians struggle to untangle these webs of intrigue. Official records are sanitized. An event like this would be recorded simply as a servant was dismissed for negligence. The underlying assassination attempt would be completely erased from history. We only know about these plots from unofficial sources, gossip recorded in private journals, memoirs written long after the fact, and historical novels that, while fictionalized, often drew upon a real oral tradition of palace stories. The line between historical fact and dramatic embellishment is hopelessly blurred. One particularly strange, though likely apocryphal, story tells of a consort using a trained bird to drop a poisonous snake into a rival's garden. While the story is almost certainly folklore, it speaks to the atmosphere of paranoia, where any event, no matter how bizarre, could be interpreted as part of a larger, sinister plot. The pin incident changes you on a fundamental level. The theoretical fear has become a real, sharp point of steel. Your trust in the world, already eroded, shatters completely. You now look at every face, even the familiar ones, with a flicker of suspicion. Your ally, Consort Shu, sends you a tonic to calm your nerves. You thank her profusely, and then pour it onto a potted plant when she is gone. You can trust no one. The Emperor is furious when he hears of the incident. He doubles your guards. He executes the girl's distant family as a warning. His reaction is not about you. It's about the brazen attack on his bloodline. His fury is a shield, but it also isolates you further, placing you in an even more conspicuous cage. You retreat further into yourself. Your only true companions are Mengyu, Chun Fen, and the Silent, ticking life within you. You spend your days in a state of hypervigilance, a prisoner in your own luxurious apartment. The birth is drawing near. You have survived the subtle poisons, the psychological warfare, and now a direct attack. But you know the final and most dangerous test is yet to come. Childbirth in this era, even for the wealthiest, was a perilous journey, and for you, in the heart of the Forbidden City, the dangers in the delivery room would not only be medical, but human. The final weeks of your pregnancy are a blur of anticipation and dread. Your world has shrunk to the confines of your lavishly appointed birthing suite. The day your labor begins, the entire palace seems to hold its breath. Midwives, physicians, and high-ranking eunuchs fill your antechamberas. The Empress herself makes a formal visit, a symbolic gesture of maternal oversight that feels more like an inspection. This is not an intimate, private moment. It is a state-controlled event. The labor is long and arduous. The air is thick with the smell of medicinal herbs and nervous sweat. The midwives, chosen by the Empress and vetted by Cao, are skilled, but their faces are unreadable masks. Every sip of water, every cloth used to wipe your brow, has been pre-inspected. You are in the most vulnerable position of your life, surrounded by people who are ostensibly there to help. But your mind, sharpened by months of paranoia, can't shake the suspicion. Is the midwife's hand too rough? Is the tonic she gives you to strengthen contractions a little too strong? Mingyu and Chun Fen never leave your side. They are your advocates, your guards, your only source of genuine comfort. Mingyu watches the midwives like a hawk, questioning every procedure. Chun Fen holds your hand, whispering words of encouragement, a small, solid anchor in a sea of pain and fear. After hours that feel like a lifetime, your ordeal culminates in a final, agonizing push. And then, a sound slices through the tension in the room, the sharp, healthy wail of a newborn baby. For a moment, all is silent except for that cry. The head midwife quickly wraps the baby in a silk cloth and, without even showing it to you, carries it to the waiting Imperial physicians for inspection. You lie back, utterly depleted, your heart pounding in your ears. You strain to hear their verdict. This was a critical moment. The child's health and, most importantly, its gender, would be formally assessed and recorded immediately. The birth of a princess was a happy event, but the birth of a prince was a dynastic triumph. A senior physician approaches the antechamber where the emperor is waiting. The silence is absolute. Then, the physician's voice, loud and clear, rings out. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. It is a prince. The dragon is strong and healthy." A wave of relief and elation washes through you, so powerful it almost makes you faint. A son, you have done it. You have delivered the ultimate prize. The baby, now cleaned and swaddled in imperial yellow, a color he is permitted to wear as a son of the dragon, is finally brought to you. You reach out with trembling arms. He is so small, so perfect. His face is red and crumpled, that to you, he is the most beautiful thing in the universe. As you hold him for the first time, all the fear, the pain, the years of struggle seem to melt away. This is your son, your flesh and blood, a connection that no one can ever sever. The news ripples through the forbidden city like a shockwave. You are no longer just consort Tan. You are the mother of an imperial prince. The emperor, overjoyed, immediately elevates you to the rank of Fei. A full imperial consort, you are now in Fei, the title that places you in the highest echelon of the harem, second only to the empress and the imperial noble consorts. The rewards are immediate and staggering. Your family is ennobled. Your father is given a prestigious government post. Your brother is granted a title. Gifts born from every corner of the empire. But you know that this promotion and these gifts are not a prize for a race you have won. They are armor for a new, more dangerous war you have just entered. By giving birth to a son, you have transformed from a favored consort into a major political power. Your son is a potential heir to the throne. You are now the matriarch of a potential future imperial line, and that makes you a direct threat to every other consort with a son, and every consort who hopes to have one. You are, most pointedly, a threat to the Empress. Though she is the official mother of all imperial children, an empress without a son of her own is in a precarious position if a consort's son is named crown prince. A little known but chilling tradition underscores this new danger. In some earlier Chinese dynasties, there was a brutal custom known as Diguimusi. When the son becomes noble, the mother must die, to prevent the mother's family from wielding excessive power over a young emperor. The mother of the newly appointed crown prince would be forced to commit suicide. While this practice was officially abolished by the time of the Qing Dynasty, the political logic behind it lingered. A consort with a healthy son was a force to be reckoned with, and a force that many would seek to neutralize. Historians are divided on the emotional state of a new mother in the palace. Were they consumed by political calculation from the moment of birth, or were they allowed a period of maternal joy? The truth is likely that the two were inseparable. The love for the child was real and fierce, but that very love fueled the political ambition, because the only way to protect the child was to secure his and your own position. As you hold your son, you look up and see Consort Yan standing in the doorway of your chamber. She has come to offer her congratulations. She is smiling, her face a perfect mask of sisterly joy. "Congratulations, Sister Anne," she says, her voice smooth as silk. "You have brought a great blessing to the Son of Heaven." But as you look into her eyes, you see no joy. You see a cold, calculating gleam. It is the look of a chess player who has just seen her opponent place a queen on the board. You are no longer just a piece to be swept aside. You are her primary rival. The game has changed. Before, you were fighting for your own survival. Now, you are fighting for the future of a tiny, helpless boy sleeping in your arms. And you know, with a mother's instinct that is deeper and more certain than any political calculation, that your enemies will stop at nothing to remove you both from the board. The birth of your son catapults you into the stratosphere of the inner court. As in Fei, You command a new level of respect and resources. But the title is not a crown of victory. It's a yoke of responsibility. You are no longer just a woman fighting for her own survival. You are the dragon's mother Longmu, a custodian of the nation's future. And this role comes with a set of fearsome, invisible shackles. The first and most painful shackle is the separation from your child. After the initial period of nursing, tradition dictates that the imperial princes are to be moved to their own residence, the palace of the princes Agesuo. Here, they are raised not by their birth mothers, but by a dedicated staff of eunuchs, nurses, and tutors, all under the direct supervision of the empress. The day they come to take your son is the cruelest day of your life. You had had him with you for only a few short months. You know every line of his face, the sound of his breathing as he sleeps, the way his tiny hand curls around your finger. And now you must hand him over to strangers. The official reason is logical and sound. It prevents any one consort's clan from exerting undue influence over a future emperor and ensures all princes receive a standardized, rigorous education. But the logic does nothing to soothe the raw, primal agony of a mother being separated from her child. You are permitted to visit him, but only on a strict, pre-approved schedule, once a week. For an hour, the visits are formal, supervised affairs. You see him in a grand, impersonal hall, surrounded by his nurses and eunuchs. You can hold him, you can play with him, but it's not the same. You are a visitor in your own son's life. This policy was one of the most effective tools for maintaining the emperor's and the empress's central authority, ensuring that a prince's primary loyalty was to the throne, not to his maternal family. Your role now shifts from caregiver to long-distance manager. Your entire focus becomes ensuring your son's well-being and shaping his future from afar. This is a new and subtle form of warfare. You cannot control his daily life, but you can influence it. Your network becomes more critical than ever. You need to know everything. Which nurse is the most attentive? Which eunuch is the kindest? Which tutor is the most patient? You use your vast new allowance to ensure that the key people in your son's household are loyal to you. A gift to his head nurse ensures she gives him an extra blanket on a cold night. A loan to his favorite eunuch's family ensures that he will report to you if your son seems unhappy or is being bullied by an older half-brother. The education of a prince is a political battlefield. From the moment he can talk, he is immersed in a grueling curriculum of Confucian classics, history, poetry, calligraphy, and martial arts. The choice of tutors, who were often high-ranking ministers, was a matter of intense political maneuvering. You fight, through your allies like Cao Di and Consort Chu, to ensure your son is assigned tutors who are not only brilliant scholars, but also politically aligned with your interests. A little-known aspect of this princely education was its sheer brutality. The princes were expected to rise before dawn and study late into the night, with very few holidays. The discipline was iron-fisted. A prince could be beaten for failing to memorize a text. This was meant to forge them into disciplined, capable rulers. But it was also a way of breaking their spirit and ensuring their complete subservience to their imperial father. Your heart breaks hearing stories of your young son struggling under this immense pressure, and you are powerless to intervene directly. Historians debate the long-term psychological effects of this upbringing on the princes. Did it successfully create ideal Confucian rulers, or did it produce emotionally stunted, paranoid men who had been separated from their mothers and pitted against their brothers from birth? The intense sibling rivalries that characterized many reigns, most famously the struggle among the sons of the Qing emperor, suggest the latter may often have been the case. You must also teach your son how to navigate the treacherous political waters during your brief, weekly visits. You cannot speak openly. You must use stories and allegories. You tell him tales of clever rabbits outwitting powerful tigers, of humble ministers who showed loyalty, and of arrogant princes who met a tragic end. You are teaching him strategy and caution in the only way you can. A wise prince, you tell him as you fix his collar, listens more than he speaks and never shows his whole hand, even to his brothers. You are molding a future emperor, and every choice is scrutinized. If you push him too hard, you will be seen as overly ambitious. If you are too lenient, you will be seen as a neglectful mother. Raising a weakling, you are walking the thinnest of tightrope paths. One day, during a visit, your son, now 6 years old, recites a poem for you that he has just learned. It is a complex piece of classic literature, and he recites it flawlessly. His tutors, standing by, beam with pride, but you notice the dark circles under his eyes, the slight tremor in his hands. He is not a proud scholar. He is an exhausted little boy, desperate for approval. After he is finished, you don't praise his memory. You simply pull him close and whisper in his ear, "You did very well, but I would be just as proud if you had forgotten a line. I am proud because you are my son, not because of what you can do." He looks up at you, his eyes wide with a surprise that breaks your heart. It's a small, fleeting moment of genuine connection in a life dominated by performance. You know in that instant that your most important job is not to raise a perfect prince or a future emperor. It's to somehow keep the small, human spark of the little boy alive inside the gilded cage of his destiny. It is the hardest and most important battle you have yet to fight. Years spool by, measured not in seasons, but in the inches your son grows taller. The frantic, high-stakes battles of your youth, the fight for favor, the terror of pregnancy, have given way to a new kind of struggle. The long, quiet war of influence and endurance. Your life is no longer about dramatic confrontations, but about the patient, meticulous weaving of a safety net around your son. The emperor is aging. The fire of his passions has banked into the quiet embers of routine and nostalgia. He still summons you, but your conversations are different now. He speaks less of state affairs and more of the past. He reminisces about his youth, about hunts and battles long ago. He looks at you not with the appraising eye of a sovereign or the desire of a lover, but with the comfortable familiarity one has for a landmark that has always been there. Your role has evolved again. You are no longer his confidant. You are his living history, a mirror reflecting a younger, more vital version of himself. Your favor is no longer a burning sun but a constant, gentle warmth. This makes you less of a target for the kind of sharp, jealous attacks you endured from consorts young in your youth. She too is aging. The lines of bitterness are etched around her eyes and mouth. Her son, older than yours, has proven to be a disappointment. Arrogant and lazy, her star has faded, and she now spends her days in bitter obscurity, a ghost haunting the halls of her former glory. Your victory over her was not won in a single, decisive battle, but through a slow, patient war of attrition. You simply outlasted her. Your primary focus remains your son. He is a young man now, a talented scholar and a skilled horseman. He is respectful to the Empress, diligent in his duties, and, as you taught him, cautious and reserved with his brothers. He is a model prince, a leading candidate for the succession. Though the Emperor has not yet named an heir, this quiet success is your greatest achievement and your greatest source of anxiety. The nail that stands up gets hammered down, and your son stands very tall indeed. Your life settles into a dignified, almost placid routine. You manage your household, correspond with your powerful family, maintain your alliances with Count D and a now elderly consort Shu, and you live for your weekly meetings with your son. The days are quiet, filled with the soft rustle of silk and the scent of aged incense. The storms have passed, and you are in the calm eye of the hurricane, but the calm is deceptive. This period of life for a successful consort is one that is rarely depicted. History and drama focus on the meteoric rise or the tragic fall. They seldom linger on the long, quiet plateau of middle age. This was a time of immense, if subtle, power. A senior consort like you, mother to a prominent prince, became a major political figure. Ministers and generals would seek to align with you. Your words, whispered to the emperor over a cup of tea, could influence policy or appointments. You have become one of the hidden pillars of the empire. A little-known aspect of this stage of life was the management of a consort's personal wealth. Through years of allowances, gifts, and tribute from supplicates, A high-ranking consort could amass a significant personal fortune. This wealth was often managed by trusted eunuchs and invested outside the palace through her family connections in businesses like pawnshops, real estate, or the salt trade. This gave her an independent power base, a source of influence that was not solely dependent on the emperor's favor. You, too, have become a shrewd, if silent, investor. Historians debate the extent of this backstage political power wielded by the women of the inner court. The official Confucian narrative insists that women should have no role in government. However, the historical record is filled with examples of powerful empresses and consorts who effectively ruled from behind the screen. Was this an aberration, a corruption of the system, or was it an unaccounted but integral part of how the imperial government actually functioned? The argument continues, but it's clear that women like you were far from powerless. Decorative figures. One autumn afternoon, you're in your garden, pruning your prize-winning chrysanthemums. The frantic energy of your youth has been replaced by a deep, abiding patience. You have learned that some things cannot be forced, that they must be cultivated slowly over time. You look at your hands, no longer the smooth, unblemished hands of a young girl, but capable and strong. Mingyu, her hair now streaked with gray, comes to you with a message. The emperor has fallen ill. It is a serious illness this time. Not a passing chill, a cold dread, a feeling you have not experienced in years, grips you. You are rushed to his bedside along with the other senior consorts and all the princes. The hall of mental cultivation is filled with the silent, tense figures of your entire life story. The empress, her face a mask of iron composure. Your old rival, Consort Yon, looking lost and irrelevant. Your ally, Consort Shu, her eyes filled with worry. And your son, standing straight and tall, his face calm but his fists clenched at his sides. The emperor lies in the great bed, looking small and frail. He is lucid, but his breath is shallow. His gaze passes over his assembled family. It is the end of an era. The sun is setting, and you know that when it rises again, the quiet, 30-year war you have been fighting will be over, and a new, faster, and far more brutal one will begin. The fight for the throne. The long, calm years are over. The storm is about to break. The emperor's death plunges the forbidden city into a state of suspended animation. Heavy, unnatural silence descends, broken only by the sound of ritual wailing and the tolling of a single great bell. The sun rises on a new world, one without its center. For you, this is the moment that your entire life has been building towards. The long, patient game is over. The young game has begun. According to tradition, the late emperor's succession edict, written in his own hand and stored in a sealed box, is retrieved from behind the throne in the palace of heavenly purity. The princes, the grand counselors, and the imperial clan members gather. The air is so thick with tension, you could cut it with a knife. Every prince is there, their faces pale and unreadable. You and the other senior consorts wait in an adjoining hall, veiled and silent. You cannot be present, but your fates are being decided in that room. You look at your son. He stands near the front, his posture perfect, his expression serene. He has learned his lessons well. He shows no eagerness, no anxiety. He is the image of a filial son mourning his father, not a candidate waiting for a crown. You feel a surge of pride, quickly followed by a wave of heart-stopping fear. The box is opened. The chief eunuch, Cao Di, looking ancient and weary, takes out the scroll of imperial yellow silk. He unrolls it and begins to read. His voice, usually so quiet, echoes in the vast, silent hall. He reads through the preamble, the late emperor's final words of wisdom to his nation, and then he comes to the name. By the grace of heaven, my son, Yinan, has shown himself to be virtuous, intelligent, and possessed of a noble character. It is my will that he shall ascend the throne and continue the great work of our ancestors. Yinan, your son's name. For a moment, you don't breathe. The world seems to tilt and then steady itself. A low murmur ripples through the assembled officials, quickly silenced. The other princes, one by one, turn to your son. Their faces are a mixture of shock, envy, and dawning resignation. They kneel before him, their foreheads touching the cold stone floor. Long live the Emperor! They chant, their voices red. Your son stands alone for a moment, the weight of an empire settling onto his young shoulders. Then he turns, his eyes finding yours in the distant hall, and his gaze, you see not triumph, but a silent, profound communication. We did it. You have won. You have navigated the treacherous currents, survived the poisons and the plots, and placed your son on the dragon throne. You are no longer just an Fae. You are the Empress Dowager, the mother of the nation, the most powerful woman in the land. But as you stand in the shadows, a strange and unexpected feeling washes over you. It is not the elation of victory. It is a profound, aching emptiness. You look around at the faces in the hall, the defeated consorts, the ambitious officials, the princes now forced to bow to their brother. You see the game board, reset for a new match, and you realize the truth. You have not won the game. You have simply become the board itself, your identity, which you fought so hard to first preserve and then redefine, is now entirely subsumed by your new role. The girl who entered the palace gates all those decades ago, the one who loved camellias and clutched a wooden comb, is well and truly gone. In her place is a symbol, a title, Empress Dowager. Your personal story is over. Your official history has just begun. Historians debate the lives of Empress Dowager. Were they the ultimate victors, enjoying the fruits of their long struggle, or were they prisoners of their own success, trapped in a new, more rigid set of rituals and responsibilities? Figures like the formidable Empress Dowager Cixi, who effectively ruled China for decades, show the immense power they could wield, but they were also isolated, their lives circumscribed by ceremony. They had won everything, but what had they lost? You are moved into the Palace of Compassion and Tranquility in Ingong, the traditional residence of the Empress Dowager. It is magnificent, opulent, and profoundly lonely. Your days are now filled with ceremony. You receive obeisance from the new emperor, your son. In a stiff, formal ritual, you are consulted on matters of state, your advice treated with the utmost reverence. But the easy intimacy you once shared with the little boy who recited poetry for you is gone forever. He is the emperor now, and you are his most senior subject. One evening, you are walking in your private garden. It is a perfect spring night, the air filled with the scent of blossoms. You are safe. You are powerful. You had everything you ever fought for. You look at your reflection in the still, dark pond. You see the face of a stately, dignified old woman, her hair adorned with pearls and phoenixes. But you search her eyes for a flicker of the girl she used to be, the young woman who navigated a world of smiling assassins, the mother who feared for her child. You search for you, and you find nothing but the serene, empty gaze of a historical monument. You have survived, but in the long, quiet process of survival, you have been completely, irrevocably erased. The world of the palace begins to fade, the sharp edges of memory softening, blurring into the gentle fabric of a dream. The vermilion walls dissolve into a warm, rosy haze. The intricate patterns on the silk robes melt into soft, flowing colors. The whispers of court intrigue, the clinking of teacups, the rustle of secret letters, all of it recedes, becoming a distant, rhythmic hum, like the sound of a faraway river. You feel a sense of weightlessness, as if you are drifting on a calm, quiet sea. The heavy crown of the Empress Dowager, the yoke of responsibility, the armor of vigilance you wore for so long, it all dissolves into mist. The tension in your shoulders, held for a lifetime, finally releases. The fear that was your constant companion has gone, leaving behind only a profound and bottomless peace. You are no longer in a garden of stone and ceremony. You are back in a place you had long forgotten. A courtyard with a single crumpled tree. The air smells of damp earth after a light rain. You can hear your mother's voice, humming a lullaby you haven't heard in 60 years. A small wooden comb is pressed into your hand, its surface worn smooth and familiar. You are home. The long journey is over. There is nothing left to fight for, nothing left to fear. There is only the soft, encompassing quiet, the gentle pull of a deep and dreamless sleep. Rest now, the story is over.